Hello and welcome to the very fifth episode of the latest show on Stat Check. It is episode 5 of Take All Comers, King of the Mountain. I'm one of your hosts, Tyler Bortel, and I am joined as always by my co-hosts.
I'll go first. Nicholas Olson Johnson.
And the illustrious
Lucas Troller, baby.
And we are here today on the day of all days trying to break down Cascade Clash. We've been building it up for quite a minute. Let's just say we came, we saw, and boy, oh boy, did we conquer. I am very excited to be talking about a fantastic event, one of the new premier events in the Pacific Northwest. We're going to be breaking it all down. We're going to give you an event review. We're going to give you a game-by-game rundown of every single thing that happened, all 100 or all 54 games, all 6 rounds. You're going to hear about it. That's not true. You're going to hear about our games in our 6 rounds for those of us who played 6 rounds. But before we jump into any of that kind of nonsense, we got to start in with a check-in with the boys. How we doing today, Lucas?
I'm doing pretty well. It was last week was a very busy one for me leading up to Cascade, but then this one is a little bit more chill. So I got some time to work on some hobby. I'm taking Death Guard to Rosehammer, which is next weekend, it is next weekend, right?
Yes.
Okay. Taking Rosehammer to Death Guard. Taking Death Guard to Rosehammer next weekend, which should be really fun. So I got a little bit of hobby work to do on them, and then just borrowing the lovely Enrique's models. So just been working on some Plaguey boys and having a good time learning to paint a new army. It is yet another Trader Power Armor army full of details and corruption and trim, which is like just not only a fun opportunity to try new things, but also like miserably slow to paint. So we'll see. We'll see how much I enjoy this, but at least it does look cool. So hopefully it should be fun. Doing pretty well overall. How are you, Nick?
Dude, I am doing pretty well. The weather up here in the Pacific Northwest has finally decided to change from cold and rainy to sunny. And not super hot, which is probably my favorite time of the year. So like the past few days at work, like it has been fabulous outside. I've been taking every opportunity to go outside that I can. I got all the windows open and it feels great. Just kind of welcoming that spring sunshine. Warhammer wise, I'm excited. I decided last minute to sign up for Rosehammer next weekend because I do have the weekend free now. And I'm excited to hang with the boys in the rundown mall and push some models around. I don't quite know what I'm playing yet. Obviously, I had a ton of fun playing Hypercrypt, which we're going to be talking about today. But always looking to try new stuff out. And may just end up playing the same thing. May end up playing something completely out of left field. So we'll find out. In other news, too, I've been slowly completing my transformation to becoming a Tau player after playing, for that weekend at Beachhammer and having a good time with the codex. The codex being completely leaked over this past few days was interesting. I know that some people are kind of down on it, but as a reminder, people were down on Necrons when they came out, and look at where that codex is right now. So yeah. I think there's some cool stuff in there. I think there's some fun stuff in there. I also think the commander kit looks badass, so I bought one the other day when I took a wrong turn on the way home and ended up at a local game store. That's super cool. And look forward to hearing, about more shoots, guns, Xenos, I guess. How are you doing today, Tyler?
Hell yeah, man. I am also doing excellent. Finished up the last of my coursework for graduate school this week, which feels real good. I got a final on Monday and then a thesis to finish up, and then I will be on to the next stage of my life, which I'm very excited about. Warhammer-wise, enjoying the hell out of Necrons. Had a really good time getting that army together. I've got some more work to do in the coming week or so on my Xeris, but other than that army is pretty much done, which is awesome. I also do need to acquire, build, and paint a monolith, but details. So having a good time with that. Small thing, easy. Having a real good time. Looking forward to Rosehammer. Always is fun to get to sleep in my own bed during a tournament, which is the best kind of tournament. But I think it's time to turn into the main topic of our event. This show, if you're listening after the fact, I'm sure you can already see it is very, very long. So we're going to try to minimize the extraneous discussion and get right into it. So let's talk about the Cascade Clash. This event ran March 9th through 10th of 2023. So we're operating on the we have
2023.
Does that 20? Oh my God, I did it again.
I thought
2024. When I gave Liam Bath the check for best overall, I literally dated it March 10th, 2023. It's 2024, y'all. Someday I'll catch on. So March 9th and 10th, 2024. That is to say that we're operating with, I don't know if the January slate qualifies as the Q1 of 2024 or the Q4 of 2023 slate, whatever. Anyway, we're operating under that meta. This is, I believe the Dark Angels Codex was in use. I don't know if anyone was using it.
It was, yeah.
But
there was one guy.
Dark Angel Codex is in use, so that's kind of the cutoff in terms of what rules were in play at the event. It was held up in Mount Vernon, Washington, which for those of y'all who have been to Charity Hammer before is a very familiar town, run by our boys up at Aegis Games, specifically our main man, Noah Bedome, of Aegis fame, who we had on last week, was running it. If you want to hear more about the story behind that scene, that shop, that organization, and the event itself, check out our previous episode where we had Noah on to talk about all that stuff. But let's get into the event itself retrospectively. Lucas, you want to run us through some of the details of the event?
Yeah, so Cascade Clash was a 108-person 6-round major. 6-round events are relatively uncommon up here, so it was pretty cool to get to play in one of those. We played through various missions in the Leviathan mission pack selected by the folks at Aegis. We played missions A, C, M, O, F, and I. In case you want to go look up what those are, that is what we did. We played GW fixed terrain layouts. Layout 1, which is the Thunderdome, was present throughout both day 1 and 2. Basically, the way things... and then the other layout that was available on day 1 was layout 3. And then layout 4 was also available on day 2. So we had Blunderdome all the way through, and then layout 3 going to 4 from day 1 to 2. Basically, the way it worked in the hall is there was... I don't know exactly what the proportion was, but roughly 50-50. The tables were either layout 1 all the way through, and then what Aegis could do between day 1 and 2 was go in, find all the layout 3s, and rearrange them to layout 4s, basically, which was a very efficient system for sure. We have pairings, rounds 1 to 4. So as the event is beginning, kind of going into its middle, we are random within your win path. So regardless of, if you're at the top of the 3-1 bracket in round 4, the 2-1 bracket going into round 4, or, the bottom of it, you can play against anyone in that bracket. And then for rounds 5 to 6, we have opponent game win percentage as the determiner for who you're going to play within your bracket. For placings, it's all based on how many wins you have, then opponent game win percentage, and then points. So opponent game win percentage was the first tiebreaker. So if you played against stronger people, you had a better chance to win the event.
Everybody loves an impromptu team event. A quick note on the philosophy here that I don't know if Noah went into this last week about the switching of the pairing process between rounds 1 to 4 and rounds 5 and 6. The thought process there is that it's very annoying when the winner of the top table game is not the winner of the tournament. The person in third just sort of submarines them. We've had that happen on, I don't think it hasn't happened on this show, but it happened on Best in Faction Next Generation back when we ran that. A couple times it happened to us. Was a massive bummer. The thought was that if we switch to running 1 plays 2, 3 plays 4, based on the tiebreakers of placings, that would solve the problem. It doesn't with OG win percentage, because the results of round 6 still help determine who wins the event, because all of those opponents are still playing games. So it's not perfect. Those things don't actually mesh the way they do, but I like it, like the concept at least of trying to avoid that situation where the top up 2 people end up knocking into each other, and one of them has way higher tiebreakers and the other has bad ones, and the third place jumps up. Like, I appreciate the thought, but I don't think we're quite there yet in terms of perfecting the pairing placings. It feels like every single time we do an event discussion, there's some asterisk on the way that pairings and placings are done. It seems at this point that there is no perfect system, but I appreciate the intention to try to innovate here. Cool. And that brings us into the event review. I don't think we have a list of bullets here what we want to talk about particularly, but this usually includes things like the logistics, the amenities, the hotel options. And Nick, starting with you, what did you think of the Cascade Clash outside of the Warhammer that was being played there?
Yeah, I thought it was great. A big thing that I look for at events is like space at the table. I know with like where we were all kind of like corralled into one big building, the doghouse in particular. So that building, and I know in there like we had like long table rows, so it made stuff like hammer and anvil a little difficult because you can't get around to like the edge of your table. But the nice thing about it is between each game there was like a large space to like put your your stuff, like your army trays, your notebooks, your little gizmos and doodads and all that. So the space allotted for each player was quite a lot, which I appreciate. If you're gonna like put tables next to each other, putting them like physically touching each other, so the only place to put your stuff is under the table, is like no good in my opinion. So I enjoyed that a lot. I know, food and water access was fantastic. I know that they had like a store in the other room where you could get all that, which was great. And then restroom access was great. I know that there was multiple restrooms available. The event was ran out of the fairgrounds, Skagit Valley Fairgrounds, if I'm remembering correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure that they're used to running events out of there. They had a fantastic map as well in the player packet. I guess that's the big thing for me. The player packet was fantastic. Releasing a player packet like 2 weeks early with the missions early before list lock, all the things lined out, a map for like parking and like a map of the venue was great. I found myself consulting it all weekend, was never lost, was never confused. So thanks for sending that information out early, so that by the time I got to the event, I knew exactly what was going on. What about you guys? I know there's more to add. I didn't want to take it all off.
Yeah, well, Nick went over a lot of the positives of the venue. I'll go over some of the negatives. There were definitely some. The fairgrounds was a cool place to be, and it was definitely nice to have all of us in one room. And because it's like several different buildings, you can have the Malifaux players in one place, you can have the Mad people in another place, you can have the Warhammer players in another building. The unfortunate part of that was, while yes, there was enough room to put your army in different places, like it was still pretty packed in that room. And also just the dynamics of being in basically what was a barn outside meant that, you went outside and you were freezing cold. You went inside, it was relatively stuffy and noisy as hell. So the actual room itself was not the most comfortable thing in the world, for sure. I don't think many people would disagree with that. The bathrooms were also like tolerable, but because they were like, it was kind of like a public park type of outside bathroom. So it was like very cold to use the facilities. A little bit of just like discomfort there. I would say the biggest thing is the volume. It was just so loud in that room. And then sometimes when like dinner options were provided, the various trucks, the taco truck, for example, needed power, and like the for whatever reason they couldn't provide it. So like a couple of the dinner options also fell flat. So a couple of like hiccups along the way that did actually detract from the quality of the event, but nothing I think they won't fix for next time.
Yeah, I would agree with some of that. The taco truck being a little bit of a bust was a massive bummer. I know they eventually got it up and running. I know we got back from having gone out to seek dinner elsewhere, and Noah was like, "Hey, the taco truck's working." And we're like, "Oh, well, we went elsewhere." But the theory, or at least of having that food access on site, was great. The location was way easier to access other food options than I think people gave it credit for. Being within walking distance of that great lunch place for Saturday was awesome. That was really nice to get to go stretch our legs. But I think that the biggest thing that they did that was super unique to this event was the incredibly relaxed schedule, which I think had some upsides and downsides. Without pulling the schedule up in front of me right now, they put a substantial 15-minute window on top of the regular breaks between rounds, and they put an hour for dinner break between rounds 2 and round 3. which meant that if at the end of round 2 you were like, oh my gosh, I just finished my game, it took the full amount of time, you have time. You get to chill, right? You get to go have some food. You get to go unwind a little bit. I think they were a bit excessive in terms of length. They're still honing in exactly what the right call is there, but especially when you're providing food on site, the need to get in, out, and on your way by like 7:30 p.m. totally vanishes, because the reason to do that is so that you can get food. But if the food's here, I think it was a great idea. Because, again, the food situation got a little bit messy, I wasn't able to really comment on how accessible it was, how many options there were for everyone. I really didn't want it to be like, hey, this is the only optional way to eat, and there are no options for vegetarians, which was, I know, was a thing at SoCal the other year that I complained about a lot. But overall, I like, again, and like with the pairings thing, I really appreciate a willingness to innovate and try new stuff, and not just rinse and repeat things that have been done before. So I like that a lot. I also got a shout out. They a lot of tournaments give away freebie little goodie bags, and a lot of them suck. People handed out stickers and swag for their own stuff that is nice, but it's not really useful. The swag bags included these. This right here is my new favorite gaming aids. They make these. They've got a guy that makes these in-house. They're selling them locally. They're going to sell them online eventually. They don't right now, so I can't point you there. But what these are, they're just like your regular measuring sticks, but they're made of fiberglass. So they're not like thick acrylic plastic. They're wicked thin. We're talking like 5 mil. Not even 5 mil, like 2 mil. I'm not a metric guy. They're like a 1/16 of an inch thick. And they come in 9-inch, 6-inch, and 3-inch sizes. I think you got one of each in little bags. And then I went and bought a little set that had a bunch more of each of them. These are so much better than acrylics because they're way thinner. They're still very sturdy, not liable to break. And they're very lightweight, but still feel, good and rigid. Oh, I am a massive fan of this kind of swag. They gave you like one of each of these and 2 dice, I think. Noah says they're printed on circuit board is what they actually are. That's crazy. Whatever they are, they're awesome. I highly recommend them, and I look forward to being able to show them once. They do look like PCBs. That makes sense. I look forward to being able to show them once Noah is selling these online. They're great. Love that. I personally wasn't actually that distraught by the event temperature situation. I thought it was not too hot at all inside, and being able to go outside into the cold was actually quite pleasant. And they also had this at other buildings you could go in and hang out in. They had a cafe area, a building over. I don't know that everyone knew about this, but because it was a full convention, there were tons of other spaces available to go decompress that didn't require just like standing outside. A little noisy in the hall, I agree, but I mean that's kind of tournaments these days, so I'm not gonna dock too many points for that. But yeah, overall, I'd say I'd give this event a solid A-, which is like by far the highest rating that I would give any event that I've been to recently. The negatives are a couple things that get worked out, and there was a lot of positive to go around. The terrain was gorgeous, as Noah had said it would be. They distributed their terrain to a bunch of different local artists to have every table look a little bit different. You'll get to see a bunch of those tables in this event. There's a couple of exceptions to that. Some things were not as hot, but it all looked gorgeous and was all functional enough. So I'd say big thumbs up for that. Sweet. Anything else you guys want to mention on the event before we jump into round 1?
No, I really appreciate their ability to take feedback well, and I know that these guys are just gonna take all that and make it even better for next time. So. Yeah,
we'll mention it again at the end, but the plan is to be doing these biannually. So the next one's supposed to be in like October. You'll obviously hear more about that when we get closer to it. But if you're in the Northwest or Northwest adjacent sort of regions, this is definitely an event worth coming into town for. If people are asking me, hey, I want to come into an event that's not Tacoma, what should I come for? This is the one that I'll be shilling comfortably.
Yeah. The Aegis guys are fantastic, and I'm excited for their events to become part of our yearly cycle.
Yep.
Yeah. If this is version 1, version 2 is going to be fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Sweet. So come on into the event. I started with this photo. This is a little look behind the curtain.
Classic Idle and Elmore, boys. Oh my god.
These are some of our boys here. Left to right is Alex Elmore, James Idle, and Tanner Herbert. Tanner rocking some signature tournament facial hair. I did not break down to the tournament stash. I got a little hesitant because I'm really enjoying this beard right now. And as y'all will see, it definitely cost me later on in the event. But yeah, in a classic turn of events, these guys showed up with unpainted armies and had to get it ready the night before, including the 27 chickens that that James brought to the event. So, just some classic hotel room shenanigans. All right, let's bring on the list. And I am going first talking about the Hypercrypt Legion. I've talked about this a bunch, but basically, Andrew Gagno had been running in this list with 20 warriors and a monolith. And then through a bunch of discussion, we decided to bring it up to 40 warriors for Pyra. That list was awesome. He did really well with that over there. And this does a lot of the things that GSC and NIDS like to do, but with a lot more power. So it was suggested that I should get on the team of people trying to make this thing work. So I came through with that. The list is Hypercrypt, as you might expect, and it goes a little something like this. I've got 2 Chronomancers, one of which has Dimensional Overseer for the 4th pickup put down. Nightbringer, Void Dragon, a Transcendent, Xeris, a Plasmancer with Arisen Tyrant. That's the full rerolls when arriving from reserves. 2 squads of 20 warriors, all with the Reapers, i.e. the good gun. A squad of Scarabs, 2 single Locust Destroyers, and a Monolith, of course, with the Death Rays. Now, if you're looking at Gagno's Pyro list, the only difference between that and this here is that Gagno has a 2nd squad of Scarabs in lieu of the 2nd Chronomancer. This is my personal small twist on the list, particularly knowing that Ritual Scrambler Fields is going to come into play here. The Chronomancer is able to fire and fade without being attached, so he's just a great little piece of trash, right? Like a Locust Destroyer who can run around, but also has the ability to fire and fade after arriving from reserves, which is pretty cool. He's got a 4-up invuln, so he can be a little piece of shit sometimes that is hard to deal with in a way that a Locust or Squad of Scarabs can't be. And also on occasion, such as onto the Ritual Scrambler Fields into an army that I don't need the damage, having the 2nd Fire and Fading Warrior unit with -1 to hit can also be pretty money. So I slotted him in there, but overall the list kind of does what it says in the tin. It's got some of the craziest move blocking shenanigans in the history of the game, and also has some decent damage and some very strong durability with plenty of tricks. Like this is my kind of list. I've got my Void Dragon depicted for you on the right here. I bought and painted this model the weekend it came out back in like October of 2020, and was very excited to finally put him on the table at a tournament. Yeah, that's what we're running here.
Yeah, he's been helping me out quite a bit for the past few years. So I'm glad you got
yeah. I've definitely lent that guy out to Nick a number of times, but yeah, I was very excited to put him on the table for myself. Lucas, talk to us about hog cranking, dude.
Yeah, so hadn't played CK at an event since Slaanesh, so I wanted to break him back out. We got 2 Stalkers in this list with Melt a Claw, 5 Brigands, 5 Carnivores. All the dogs have the Missile Hat. We've got 1 Beast of Nurgle named Princess, who was an absolute queen this weekend, absolutely put in a ton of work. So she's going to stay in my CK list for sure. And 2 squads of Nurglings, because Nurglings are good. Yeah, just a very straightforward list. Not a lot to it. Just mixing the dogs around a little bit, but not a lot of innovation, really.
Where's the Lancer, dude?
Yeah, I mean, GW terrain is the terrain to run him on or her on, but like, ugh, man, that base is just so big and awkward, and it's just better to have 3 more dogs.
So, I wonder how much less big and awkward it would be if you didn't stick a drop pod off the side of it.
Well, it looks cooler that way, so.
Fair enough.
Those look very cool.
Could you talk a little bit about, I know the kind of tech choice that we were going back and forth on with this list was between the Stalkers and the Huntsmen, and it seems like you settled on the Stalkers. What's the thought process going on there?
Yeah, so basically the trade-off is, would you rather have the slightly better Huntsman ability of reroll 1s to wound and damage against vehicles and monsters, but lose the Missile Hat? Or would you rather take a Stalker so that your Sights of Power game gets marginally better, but whatever. You get a Missile Hat, you get a Claw instead of a Sword, which is better, but then you have the slightly worse data sheet ability of +1 to wound if the target's alone. My rationale is the +1 to wound actually comes up a fair bit because people are playing all sorts of like teleporting armies where they go off into corners on their own. So that ability kicks in every once in a while. The 12 damage tank shock is so much better than the 10 damage tank shock. It's not even close. And the mortar hat was just enough to push it over the line for me, because the mortar hats, like, it's not just a linear progression of like +1 hat is +1 hat. It's like one extra hat plus all the ones you had before, so you can actually kill something meaningful, if that makes sense. So yeah, I wanted the missile hat, and then it was, everything else just kind of lined up nicely after that.
Makes sense to me. And after the event, because I'm going to forget to ask you at the end, are you still on board? Is this a list that you think you're going forward with for Chaos Knights?
Yeah, if I had to play them in singles, I would play something like this. You could also play 13 dogs, but I feel like then your scoring ability is so much lower, and smart players can really infiltrate your backfield. So, yeah, this is what I would play.
Makes sense to me. Sweet. And then, Nick, tell us about your totally different take on Necrons with Hypercrypt.
Oh my god, I'm playing a super original list. It's the exact same list Tyler read. I'm not going to make you listen to it again. The one difference is I don't have the solo Chronomancer. I opted... We had like 20 extra points left over. Tyler and I were racking our brains on what to spend it on. And it's basically... Because like we had 3 solo Locusts. And so it's like you either get to upgrade a solo Locust to a Scarab Swarm. You get to upgrade it to a heavy Locust, which means you get like a better gun and 1 more wound. Or you can turn it into a Chronomancer for like goofy stuff. I didn't do the Chronomancer. I recognize the value of it. I didn't do it because I was like, I want to focus on just trying to execute what the list does and not thinking before every game, like, oh, is this the game where I take the Plasmancer out for the Chronomancer and then making the wrong decision and losing? I also, this is a bit of confirmation bias, but when I was running that solo Grimnir and Votan, every goddamn time that guy would decide to get out of his car and go do something, my opponent would go, oh, I drew Assassinate. And I'm like, cool, dude. And so I'm just sick and tired of solo characters because I'm like, that's going to happen with this Chronomancer every time. I freaking know it. So, yeah. The list is really good.
For the record, it never happened, but yes.
Yeah, it never happens to you.
Theoretical consideration.
Yeah, we'll talk about, like the weird, obviously, like cool things you can do when they happen in our games. So, yeah.
Sweet. Well, let's get into it. Round 1, we are playing Take and Hold, Chilling Reign, Search and Destroy. Nothing to it but to do it. And in the first round, I am running up against Custodes. Lucas, as resident Custodes lover, you want to walk us through this list?
Sure. I mean, I know Custodes well because I hate them. So the Blade Champ is the advanced charge band. He's got Veiled Blade for the extra OC and all that. We've got the Shield Captain. We've got Trajan. We've got 2 squads of 5 guard, 2 squads of 2 Alaris Terminators, 1 Caladius Grav Tank, 2 Contemptor Achilles Dreadnoughts, Chad move, 1 squad of 5 Wardens, and 4 Vigilators. Why do Custodes have so much stuff now?
Do you know what a Vigilator is?
It's like the 3rd type of Sister of Silence, like the bad one, right?
Do you know what it has?
No. Oh, no, they have the Great Swords, right? They got
Great Swords, dude. The Great Sword Sisters.
Yeah.
Some badass stuff.
So,
that's a Chad move.
Yeah, shout out to this guy for this Chad list. He was pretty clear up front that he was just playing the models that he had. He recently acquired these from a buddy of his. I was like, these models look sick. Let's take them to a tournament. Played 1 practice game and then rocked up. And I was like, damn, bro, I am sorry that you have to play me round 1 because like your shit is awesome and I respect the hustle. And it did not go very well. I'm going to remove the little stat check logo so you can see the scorecards. Yes, it's cool. This is pretty cool. This was a nice little bit of an intro warm-up game to figure out how the list really operates. He made the mistake of deploying his Trajan squad, and the moment that Trajan squad gets deployed, the Catan get deployed as far away from them as possible while still being on the line. And as long as we stay outside of 17 of them, that squad's not actually a threat. He also, if you take a look at the list here, he's got 1 squad of 5 Wardens, 2 squads of 5 Guard. He did not put Trajan with the Wardens. He put them with the Guard, which means that squad is very vulnerable. So the Nightbringer and Void Dragons showed up on the upper left and just sort of ran around, got charged by... he puts... I think I went first in this. Yeah, I went first. And he puts the Wardens with... the Blade Champ on the sort of top middle, and I put my Catan on the where you can see sort of here on the top left, and I run both of them up and over And I'm like, surely you're not going to charge the Catan with the Wardens. That's not going to do the thing. You wouldn't do that, right? And he's like, fuck you. I absolutely would. Get him. And just runs immediately in and everybody dies. It did not go very well. We used the Monolith and the Warriors to just obliterate Trajan and his squad. So that squad's dead. Don't have to worry about it. The Chronomancer squad drops in, move blocks, takes all the primary. As you can see, we did hold him to a 0 on primary here. The 8 points he grabbed was 5 on Secure No Man's Land on bottom 1 and 3 on Overwhelming Force when a Custodian Guard squad did exactly 20 wounds to my Chronomancer brick, and I failed all 26 up saves, so 3 points for him on that. Not a fantastic matchup, but the move blocks are crazy. You can see here the kind of positions that this list tries to get into pretty often, where the Catan are bullying off the middle, but more importantly, the Chronomancer Warrior squad is not letting anyone get anywhere, taking all the objectives, move blocking all of the things that are relevant. It's a pretty brutal list, and this game took like half an hour. It was not pretty. But yeah, that was round 1. How about you, Lucas? You're playing into Necrons with Can Court. Nick, you want to run us this Canoptic Court list?
Yeah, I believe this was played by Zach Filey, a member of Philly. There we go.
I don't know how his last name is pronounced, but yes.
But yeah, I played him at Tau Tipping last year. He's a member of Team Aegis. Really cool guy, so I'm glad that you got the opportunity to play him. He was playing Canoptic Court, so not the Hypercrypt hotness, but Can Court's also tearing it up. So let's take a look at this list. He's got a Nightbringer. He's got 3 Technomancers, 1 with Dimensional Sanctum. That's the Infiltrate for his unit. 1 with the Auto Divinator. That's the reroll 1s to wound while they're wholly within their matrix, I believe.
This is the when your opponent uses a stratagem, you try to steal that. Or no, the when they gain a CP as a result of an ability, you also get 1. Okay,
well, I'm wrong then. Cool. Wacky choice. 2 Doomstalkers, 3x6 Wraiths, 5 Death Marks, 2x5 Flayed Ones for some infiltrating, trash. 3 Solo Locust Destroyers, and then 2 squads of 6 Tomb Blades with the Blast Gun, the Particle Beamer, and the Shadow Loom for Invuln or Stealth. I think it's both, actually. Oh, he's Deep Strike Gang? Whoops, my bad. He's on Deep Strike Gang. Thought he was Team Aegis. I
didn't even know that.
Another fantastic team up here. Thank you for correcting me, James.
Zach was a fun person to play against. I've not really interacted with him very much before. He was a cool guy. Unfortunately, this game was pretty one-sided. CK had a really strong game in the Canoptek Court. Less so when they take Doomstalkers, so I had to be a little bit respectful of that. But because we were playing on table quarters, I was really able to hide from his shooting really well. You can see the Doomstalkers there on the upper right. It's a little hard to see the acrylic plates, but basically they only have reliable angles onto that lower right objective and then sort of kind of down some angles up to the top left. So I was very easily able to stage all of my damage. And, this was game 1. I drew behind enemy lines and outpost. Big bummer. And then he draws Denial and Prisoners and is like, okay, time to go run forward, kill that Stalker with the Nightbringer and those Wraiths. We have an awkward moment where the Nightbringer shoots the Stalker to softens it up, does like 18 damage to it. And I'm like, okay, do you want to just should we just not do that? I don't know. I was still in practice mode. And after that, I thought, if this comes back to bite me in the ass and I lose because I gave him a huge take back, then I'm going to feel bad. But we take it back. He doesn't shoot. Nightbringer fails the 8-inch rollable charge. The Wraiths go in, don't kill the Stalker. The Stalker 1 CP precisions and annihilates the Technomancer. And, even more importantly than that now, he doesn't get area denial, and his guys are in combat, so they can't use the runaway strat. So, that absolute ridiculous comedy of errors back to back to back kind of set the tempo for the rest of the game, and I just, absolutely monkeyed all over this guy. And I think he killed, 3 or 4 dogs total as I just, ran into his deployment zone and throttled him. So, yeah, was, he's an entire army of 4 Invulns, and when turn 1 goes that badly and then you fail 80% of Invulns turn 2, the game just instantly ends. So another fun game of Warhammer here.
Yeah. Can Court is a strong... Oh, sorry, if you had more to talk about.
Nope.
Go ahead, dude. Yeah. What I've noticed is like Cancord's a very strong archetype, and it's an army that absolutely loves to flood midfield objectives and be like, what are you going to do about it? But it definitely does not seem to like armies that also enjoy brawling in the middle, like Death Guard and World Eaters and Custodes and even CK, which can just eventually, through weight of dice, like clear a Wraith army. And also, if you're like Technomancers are in the wrong spot, they're going to get Epic Challenge, and now your Wraiths are going to crumple. So that's something that, as the Cancort player, to watch out for. And if you're ever playing against Cancort, be like, look out for the Technomancers. If you can precision them out, like that Wraithbrick's going to go down.
Yep.
Yeah, this was also a part of the decision to take Stalkers, some of the benefits of it that we hadn't really talked about. Huntsman cannot Epic Challenge. Stalkers sure can, baby.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's very unreliable because it's like hitting on 3s, winning on 2s, 4-up invuln. So, like, actually, no, the Techno doesn't have
Techno doesn't have an invuln. Yeah.
Yeah, that should really just paste his ass.
Yeah, Techno's 4 wounds on a 4-up armor.
Yeah, he's just got
See
the
you later, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
how many attacks does the Stalker have? Is he 5?
4.
4. Oof.
Yeah, he's bad in melee, but he could probably
like
kill a Technomancer.
Hit on 3s, wound on 2s, cut right through. And
yeah, you
don't
need
roll
2
a
of
1
those
and
to
you
go
one-shot
through.
him.
Yeah.
No, the claw is D6 plus 2, right?
Yep.
Yeah, but he's got a fill up, man.
Oh, fair enough. He's got the 5-up.
Yeah. But yeah, still, like average dice, he's dead as
You
hell.
want 2 wounds, and you should absolutely get 2 wounds.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Sweet. Alrighty. Nicely done. Breezing along on here. Mr. The Juice over here is playing into Guard. I know a thing or two about Guard. I'll read this list. So we're running Gaunt's Ghosts, which are great. They kind of took a dip recently. I haven't seen them as much, but they're still a fantastic unit. Love to see them on the table. We got Lord Solar Leontis himself, the Primaris Psyker, who is the best tech piece that no one is running. I don't understand why. This guy is hilarious in the damage output that he can put down. We got a tank commander with a demo cannon. We got Ursula Creed. We got an infantry squad with a mortar to hand out overlapping fields of fire, and bodyguard Ursula Creed and Lord Solar. Pair of chimeras, which I think are not as trendy these days. Most people are just running their Casterkin around on foot, but never hurts to have a little bit of boxes. 3 basilisks, 2 mana cores, so a pretty solid amount of indirect. A 6-man Bulgrin squad, 2 squads of Casterkin to go in those chimerae, and 2 scout sentinels with las cannons to make all that indirect tick. How'd this game go, Nick?
Yeah, so this was Dalton, who I believe is another member of Deep Strike Gang. We played layout 1, so this was, search and destroy, really close, Blunderdome. So we're going to, push our stuff into the middle, not really like snipe across the board, but have a big brawl. So into Guard, what I'm most scared of is him just killing all my trash pieces with his indirect, right? Like Manticores are 3 damage, Locusts are 3 wounds, right? The math there is not good for me. So I put like all of my like little trash pieces off the board. Like I think all 3 Locusts and Strat reserves. And then I started the Scarabs on the board because I'm like, if you want to shoot like 2 or 3 indirect pieces to kill Scarabs turn 1, go ahead. Other thing too, secondary wise, took tactical. Guard don't really give up a lot of fix, especially this list, and bring it down to them is a little bit trolling because all of their tanks are like in the backfield, so you have to like table them to bring it down. So yeah, into this, I went first, unfortunately, which means I didn't get to respond with like a turn 1 deep strike of any kind. So my plan was basically just, it's take and hold, let's flood the objectives, let's force him to commit, and then we get to reactive deep strike on him after that. So I threw 2 Catan to the top objective. I think I actually didn't throw my Void Dragon in the middle because I was like, that's a tank commander and 20 Kazarkin and a bunch of indirects. So I'm just going to leave the Void Dragon here waiting to pounce in the middle. And I threw the Scarabs in the middle to be like, you have to like send it. You have to expose a unit to kill these Scarabs or shoot indirect at them. So it was like, I've got a pretty easy 10 on primary, maybe a 15 pass to you. Dalton at this point hard commits to killing the Nightbringer. He's like, I'm sending everything into the Nightbringer, which I honestly think he should have sent some stuff into Warriors. Just starting to chip away at the Warriors is the right call. I think I even put my Chrono Squad in reserve in this game. I forget, but I think I was trying to be like aware of that because I want that move block. I think that's, what wins me the game. And so he hard commits to the Nightbringer. Next turn, a bunch of my stuff shows up. We kill a lot of his things that he exposed to shoot at the Catan. We kill some of the stuff he exposed to shoot at the Scarabs in the middle. And at this point, he's hard committing to like killing the Void Dragon. I believe he drew like, was it Bring It Down and Assassinate? If you want, you can go to the next scorecard. Yeah, he drew those later in the game. So he was hard committing to killing this Void Dragon, and he sent everything in his army that was alive into it, and it lived. And at this point, it's like, well, that's not great. I'm quite ahead. You probably need to like switch targets to like my scoring units, right? This Void Dragon's just gonna like take his pound of flesh. Maybe you can slow him down with the Bullgrim. But Dalton draws Bring It Down and Assassinate on round 3, and he's like, I'm killing that Void Dragon, and he does not kill it. And at that point, he's kind of like, well, this is pretty over. All I've got left is indirect in my corner. Everything that can like push in the board is dead. You've denied like all my primary. I'm just getting 5s. GG, dude. So, yep, this was just kind of a, bit of a target priority mistake from him. And my goal is to just exert a lot of pressure with the Catan and force him to decide to kill them or kill my scoring units. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to kill the Catan. So 144 victory for the Hypercrypt Legion.
Fair enough. That's done.
Yeah, I do think this is a very strong matchup for Necrons for what it's worth. Both Hypercrypt and Canoptek Court are like, you don't get to get primary, you don't get to kill. Because I mean, just even fundamentally, the guard damage is all like, its strength is reasonable AP and lots of volume of moderate damage. And the Catan is like, we half that and we don't care about your AP. And then yeah, there's definitely like some ideal targets, and Dalton probably could have prioritized better. But like, what are they going to do about a Catan just T-posing on an objective? Like,
it's not
it once or twice with some infantry and then lose.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is like using all your tricks. He was really good at using his Meltamines as much as he could, but I think he didn't use grenades with Kazakin on the turn. He like committed to killing the Void Dragon, and of course he lived on 2 wounds. He could have pivoted another squad of Kazakin down to shoot the Void Dragon, and he decided to like split. Whenever you're going to go after Catan, don't split into other targets. Like, hard commit to killing the Catan or go kill other stuff. Because those guys are... The variance is crazy high on them because, they're flipping coins, they're having damage, and then they're, flipping a 3-sided dice after that, right? Like, who knows? Averages don't exist with them. Who knows how much damage you're going to do to them? Throw everything, you throw the kitchen sink at them, and if they die, fantastic. If they die early, okay, cool, well, they're gone. You've solved the problem. Because, like, the Kron player is planning on that guy holding down, like, the fort wherever he is, and if it dies, like, really easily, unless they've got a backup plan, you might have just, like, knocked that pressure away. So, yeah. Don't like, half commit to them, because then you're not going to kill them, and then your turn will be over.
Yeah, absolutely. I guarantee you that the moment you do full commit, it's going to die to the second activation, and you need to be okay with that. Like,
or it won't die.
You did the right thing.
We lost the game.
Those are the only options. Yeah. But yeah, the moment you split fire 1 gun, that Catan becomes invulnerable. It's a rule, actually. It can't take damage once you don't throw everything you have at it. That's just how it works. This seems like a good point to point out a really sick-looking terrain set from the Aegis Boys. I don't know which artist was responsible for painting this, but we got this like teal and neon on green kind of vibe sitting on a red mat. Very pretty, all these spikes and stuff.
Was crazy, dude.
Was this one of the ones where they thinned out? Were the walls pretty thin, or are they still pretty thick?
The walls were thick as hell, dude.
Yeah.
The walls were like 1.5 inches thick. It was impossible to hold those safe objectives behind the wall, which normally I think they are. But hey, that was, when are you holding objectives indirect anyways, dude? Unless you slam in on them.
Rock and roll, man. All right, sweet. Cool. It brings us into round 2. And if round 1 was the, milk toast mission, this is the spiciest mission of the weekend. We're playing Ritual Scrambler Field Sweeping, which is certainly like a pretty event-defining mission to throw in there, and something that we had to think long and hard about how to deal with Hypercrypt. I know we played some practice games to see how that would work out, and we're feeling pretty interested about it. So hopefully we get some nice easy layups to just table a fool and then move on with our lives. But unfortunately, I am playing Custodes again this round, and not quite as easy of a Custodes list to take apart. Could you run us down this Custodes list, Lucas?
Sure. He's got a Blade Champion. He's got a Shield Captain with Careless Hunter. I actually like that quite a bit rather than putting in the Blade Champion. I think that makes the squad much more resilient. Like that squad is so much harder to deal with 3 -1 damage as well. Trajan, 2 squads of 5 guard with shields and banners. 4 prosecutors, 2 Kalidas grav tanks, 2 squads of 5 wardens, 4 witch seekers and Draxus. So it's more or less the classic Art of War Custodes, but they sub out 5 wardens for 5 guard. Yeah, the Careless Hunter, baby. Who's going to tell the story?
I don't really know the details of this story, so it's not going to be me.
Steve Trimble, known Custodes pusher, refused to play Ceaseless Hunter, and then he copied me at the last second at Tacoma, and it didn't come up until his final game, where it won him the game. And then he was talking about how Careless Hunter is the most OP enhancement, and we're like, what the hell is the Careless Hunter, dude? And after that, it's just become that in our local chat.
Yeah. Custodes players, historically illiterate, always good to make fun of them at any point that we possibly can.
Fucking true.
Yeah. So this was up against, I don't want to pull up the results just yet. What was this dude's name? He was a fantastic player and a wonderful opponent. Probably one of my favorites. Not Stephen Trimble, though, a different Stephen. Yeah, so he's got a much better list here than the last guy. He's got the double Calladii, which is a really good take. If you're not playing tanks, you're trolling. I will die on this hill, particularly in singles. They just shore up so many bad matchups, including this one. He very intelligently puts Trajan with the Wardens instead of with the Guard, and the other Warden squad gets that Shield Captain, so they are just indestructible. And then the Blade Champ and Draxus get to go with the Guard, so the Guard become much harder to shoot at because Draxus makes them loan up 18, and she then gets to benefit from their ability to shoot crazy hard. And then the Blade Champ squad just, move fast, eat ass, go get him. Does his thing pretty well. This is a really excellent Custodes list. I think this is my favorite Custodes list in the game right now. It does the thing really well. So not a phenomenal match to play on a really tricky mission. Custodes historically very good at standing places. This list in particular, very good at standing places. And Necrons with Hypercrypt not able to get places through the ritual. So the thought process here, as it always is into Wardens, is to bait out that 4-up Feel No Pain as early as possible. Because the other Custodes defenses, the -1 damage, and the what's the other defensive strat they have in their codex?
That's it.
Oh, that's it?
They have 4-up Feel No Pain on their data sheet.
Yeah.
Okay.
They
have -1 to hit in melee.
-1 hit. Okay, whatever the case.
Kata.
Yeah, for sure. The 4-up Feel No Pain, very scary. Want to get that through. But the -1 damage doesn't really affect stuff too much because most of our stuff is either high enough damage that -1 is whatever, or it's all 1 damage attacks. So once I can get them to bait out that 4-up Feel No Pain, I can shoot warriors at it. I can deal with that unit or just put other things into it. So what ends up happening here is he goes first, which is really big for me. Really wanted to go second in this. Also, peep this awesome Eldar terrain. The table wasn't quite finished. I think the home field pieces still haven't been detailed all the way up, but this table looked so freaking cool. It was a ton of fun to play on. So right off the hop, I make a decision here to go fixed, which I think is a really good decision at the end of the day, but it definitely puts my cards on the table well in advance. And the fix that you want to play on Ritual Scrambler fields is Cleanse Homer, wherever possible, particularly on Sweeping Engagement, better known as Pizza Deployment. Deploy Teleport Homer just kind of happens. It's just the reality of the situation. If he wants to spread himself thin enough to actually keep me out of his deployment zone, you can see my Transcendent Catans in the top left corner there. Donald painted this table. Great job, Donald. You painted awesome stuff. I love the aesthetic. It looks super cool. It is also one of the ones that's a little bit on the thick side with some of these pieces here, but looks phenomenal and totally functional. So yeah, if you want to keep the Transcendent Catan from getting into that corner immediately top of 1, you're spreading yourself so thin that I'm a very happy camper. I'll throw something in the middle, my Scarabs or whatever, and I'll live with it. Cleanse is really great here because with the change to when you hold objectives, you check at the end of turn as well, which means that you can cleanse an objective on the same turn that you spawn it. Unfortunately, this means that I am trying to do 4 actions every single turn: spawn an objective, cleanse, homer. But because the objectives can be so close together, cleansing 2 objectives with 1 unit becomes very easy, which cuts it down to 3. So suddenly it's manageable again. But you got to think pretty hard about when you're going to get those cleanses and how you're going to get those cleanses. And as you can see here, on 2 different turns 2 and 4, I only got a 2 on cleanse. That being said, the secondary floor here is like 32, right? So like I ended up with 36. That's great, but it's just we're printing points. And I want to print points because I need this guy to have to come to me. If he doesn't come to me, it's going to be real sketchy. I don't really have a way to assault this castle, so I want to win the race to 100 by letting, if he wants to sit back, I'm going to spawn a bunch of objectives and stand on him and cleanse Homer. He's got to do something about it. So we go for that. Transcendent jumps to the corner. Like I said, we do get to go second here, which is great. He pulls area to now bring it down turn 1 and says, "Fuck it, I'm sending in the Wardens." The Wardens with the Careless Hunter, Shield Captain. They run into the center and they just come and get some, brother. And we've got to bait him into popping that Fort Philippine. So this is the position you can see right now. I move block everybody with the 3-inch to keep all of his units in vaguely reasonable places. Take the objective that he was spawning away from him to hold him down to 0 primary, which is great. Because think about the ritual, you got to think like long-term primary here. It's really hard to stop people from getting 15s on turn 4 and 5. I know I did in this case, but like conceptually, it's not easy. So you want to deny their primary very early, very often, so that you don't find yourself trying to fight to deny 1 or 2 on turn 4 or 5 that don't actually matter. So holding him to a 0 turn 2, really big deal here. So we go for that. We block him off, and then we line up the Void Dragon's gun, the Nightbringer's gun, and the Monolith all at that same unit of Wardens and say, you're going to pop the 4 at Feel No Pain? Because if you don't, you're probably going to get scammed. And sure enough, he pops -1 damage for free. He pops the 4 at Feel No Pain. Great. That unit is the thing I can deal with now. The guns do some amount of damage. It doesn't matter how much. The Scarabs run up. Xeris runs up. Xeris spawns. The Scarabs cleanse. The Transcendent homers. 8 secondary over to you. Bring it on. Unfortunately, that unit up top there is the Careless Hunter squad, and they go for an advance, hit a 6-inch advance, run all the way around, and long bomb like a 10-inch charge to get all the way down to Xeris, the Scarabs, and the Chronomancer who's behind that wall there, which is a massive bummer for me because it takes what was going to be a very sit-back cagey game and turns it into an I need to deal with this shit now game. I make a really big mistake here. I tried to keep my gas in the tank because I was really worried about burning too bright, too fast into Custodes and their end game being better than mine. So I end up holding back my Plasmancer unit out of fear that it was going to die. In hindsight, looking at the table state, I could have brought it in very safely and kind of punished this overextension. But instead, I tried to deal with it and the center squad. I split my forces a little bit too much. I didn't kill anything. Was really sketchy. But we keep knocking stuff around, scoring points. The other thing that happened on turn 2 that was terrifying was if you look very close, you can see that my Void Dragon has run up and is touching this little piece of terrain. I figured shoot at him. Like it's a Catan, whatever. I had not been shot at by a Caladius before. Those things obliterate Catan. Oh my gosh. They hit on 2s and they're strength 12 twin linked and they're like D6 plus 2 damage or whatever. Like bad. Real bad. The Void Dragon ate it immediately. It was a little bit close, but not that close. So this is why I think the Caladi are really great into Necrons. They murder Catan when given the opportunity to do so. Was this preventable? Totally. Hubris? Absolutely. But it's a really good way to punish Necrons that are making mistakes here. And I definitely made a mistake in this particular juncture. For the rest of the game, what ends up happening is that I finally get to do what I wanted to do, which was pull this man apart. After boxing him up for a minute, we then and start throwing threats in several directions. We spawn an objective over on like further to the left. I'm spawning objectives one way, he's spawning objectives another, and I'm jumping units to the other side. So we're trying to pull him in 3 different places, and Custodians are really not good at being in 3 places at once because the Warrior Book of Plasmancer just ends them. So I basically jump everything to the right, end a unit, jump everything to the left, end a unit, and try to focus on which units are scoring him points, which objectives only have one unit on them. He had it come up where he had only one unit that was holding 2 different objectives, annihilated that unit, and suddenly he went from getting a 15 to getting a 5 on turn 4, which is a big bummer. Holding him to a 5 on turn 5 was absolutely me scamming him and him making a positioning mistake where he couldn't actually hold 2 objectives at once. So he ended up holding. He ended up only getting to hold one of them when I just rolled kind of hot. So that probably should have been 10. This should have been a 5-point win. But that happens sometimes. And we're able to get the 15 bottom 5 pretty comfortably. Unfortunately, he held me to a 0 on turn 4. Like, that's the downside of forcing him to spread wide, is that if he spreads wide, he just denies your primary. So that was pretty effective there. But at the end of the day, this ends up being a 36-point tie on secondary and a 30-20 win on primary. So we take the 76-66. I did, like I said, stick with the Plasmancer and have the solo chrono around to threaten, which was great because Custodians in this matchup really want to just sticky objectives and run away from them. And having the threat of the chrono constantly meant that he wasn't able to do that. Several times he was like, I'm just going to sticky this and walk away. And it was like, remember, if you do that, the Chronomancer is like, damn. So it kept him honest really effectively. Loved that unit, loved how it played out. Like I said, not my favorite performance on my part in terms of getting this Void Dragon killed really early, and not quite respecting this unit of guard in the top and their overextension, and then not punishing it correctly. Like, lots of places to pick up improvements here, but overall pretty happy with how the list performs here, and really pleased with the result here. Great game, Steven. This totally could have gone the other way. Very well played on his part. Awesome game.
Yeah, this did look really fun. I remember walking over and seeing you guys in the middle of like the throes of turn 3. It was pretty crazy. And especially on this mission, having a relatively low unit count on both sides, means like all the actions that people have to do and all the places people need to stand is like a lot harder to come by. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, when I saw him deny all my primary going into bottom 4, I was convinced that the game was just immediately over.
That's wild. Did you go second?
Yes, I did get to go second. That was totally necessary here. You're looking at bottom 1 right now. Really, really well executed. Had to get a little deep in my bag to make some of this stuff happen, but was very cool.
I'm glad you were there that night that I practiced this mission, so you and I get to think through it together. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think the cleanse deploy worked out fantastic. Really loved not having to, I guess I have to go do this thing over here. Like, every single turn, I know what to do. I can think 3 turns in advance about how I'm going to do all this stuff. And especially going second, bottom 5 becomes just an automatic 23 points. Like,
I don't
think
just you can play tactical on this scrambler fields because there's so many like go to this objective now, which you just can't do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right.
Well done.
It looks like I'm not the only one playing Custodies, though. Lucas gets to play into Custodies as well here. I'll run down, or Nick, you want to run down this list?
Yeah, dude. All right, so this guy's got a pretty solid Custodies list. We got Blade Champ with Karis Hunter. We got Shield Captain with Inspirational Exemplar. We got Trajan. We got a squad of 4 Guardsmen with a shield. We got 3 squads of 4 Sisters. We got 1 squad of 5 Alaris. 3 breaks of 5 Wardens, a Calidus Assassin, and Draxus.
Now, I know what you're saying. You're like, Alaris, lol W, but the hilarious part is they're actually like really scary in this matchup because they reroll wounds into monsters, vehicles, and characters, and they're toughness 7, which is like a huge breakpoint for my army. So like, I would much rather this be another squad of T6 Custodies. I will not lie to you at all. So yeah, this was against Chris, I believe. Pretty interesting game. No disrespect to Chris. I know he said this was like one of his first times, if not his first time playing against Chaos Knights. So, take this game with a huge grain of salt because I keep playing against Custodies players that don't know how to play into CK. And I keep saying that it's Custodies' favorite matchup, and then I keep winning it by like 40 points because there's a critical point where they need to do something to win the game, and then they do the opposite, and I win. So one of the troublesome parts of this is he needs to do a lot of actions, not only because he took tactical, but because he needs to spawn objectives and stand on them. And I've got 12 mortar hats in my list. The couple extra mortar hats from the stalkers really put in work. On turn 1 in particular, there was one stalker who killed 3 sisters with the mortar hat, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. So yeah, I opened the game by I think he went first and kind of just like staged pretty much only a couple of inches outside his DZ. I stayed far away from him and spawned an objective and killed 10 sisters and said, okay, let's play the game now. He said, well, if I do nothing, I'm going to lose this game slowly. So his solution to that was to walk a squad of wardens out, spawn an objective, sprint another squad of wardens out, go for a 10-inch rerollable charge. Like, I don't see how the play there isn't to, if you're going to lose the game standing still, expose your entire army, go for a couple of those longer charges. If they don't work, then you at least have everything closer to me instead of only one unit. Because as it stood, I was able to laser beam down that one unit, even through Fort Feel No Pain, Fort Feel No Pain and -1 damage. I was just able to burst it down. The stalker ability actually putting in work against the wardens -1 to wound, because the +1 takes me back to 2s. That actually got me 2 extra warden kills, which was pretty cool. And yeah, I was just able to burst that one squad down, and then he did the thing again where he had one unit go backward and just scarred his home field for like just no discernible reason. I guess there was like defense stronghold or something, and the other 2 units kept walking forward a little bit. And the Chaos Knights can absolutely gun down one squad of Custodies a turn, but one squad is so much less than 5. So if you put all 5, as close as possible to me, and I kill one of them, then the other 4 get to charge me the next turn. So, just a little bit of like poor macro, not a little bit, a lot of poor macro decision making made this game not all that close. Unfortunately, I just absolutely beat his ass on primary because he tried to be aggressive with the dudes eventually, and then ended up getting off the objectives, and a couple of carnivores slipped into his backfield and kept on sticking objectives, and it just ended up going very poorly for him. So, yeah, we can see in the upper left the remnants of that one warden squad that tried going for a longer charge, and all the other guys are like so far away from my shooting base that they'll never be able to interact with them. So those like 7 dogs that are in that cluster there just ended the game on full health, moving together in a little ball. And you do not want to let the Chaos Knights do that for more than 1 turn. So yeah, definitely, unfortunately, not the most interesting game here. It was just kind of he also like deep struck it. Yeah, this was the other, when he went for that 10-inch charge, he also deep struck the Alaris and went for a 9 rolling instead of rapid ingressing them, which was another huge mistake. Admittedly, if he had landed that 9, it would have been pretty big, and I would have been in some trouble. But I think I definitely still could have dug out of that. Whereas, like, if you rapid ingress them, they guaranteed make the charge, and it's 100% play for the low cost of 1 command point. So,
what do you think about something like Bring Storm from the Custodies player in this situation?
It's a little tough. The big thing is Custodies really want the extra CP from Tactical, but a lot of that is for -1 damage. And like in the Necron matchup, -1 damage doesn't do a lot to CK. Their damage is like 6 or 1. So -1 doesn't do a whole lot.
12
so you're really
or
just
1.
saving to fight first. Agent can do it anyway. And occasionally you might fork over 2 CP for it. I think Bring It Down Storm would have been pretty reasonable. Yeah. I guess
because I know
another reasonable option, but unfortunately I just like slaughter all of the people. I guess the Calidus could just like hang out in that center ruin and just homer 5 times. That's probably not terrible either. With what?
I guess
she's alone up.
Yeah, just get close.
Yeah, but she's within 6 of the center. Like, go.
Do you foresee a problem with putting multiple mortar hats within 6 inches of the center of the board when there are Custodies staged within 18 inches of that point?
Not a single thing. I don't know what you're talking about.
You fucking idiot.
But no, I agree. I think Custodies, certainly the issue with the tactical is the like random actions coming up, which is why you have trash, but CK are so good at killing little trash units. And also on the ritual where you're having to do an action every turn. it certainly seems like you're going to be action starved,
Yeah.
which is not a great recipe for success.
I killed all the prosecutors instantly, and he got lucky that he didn't really draw that many action-based
Yeah.
secondaries. He drew cleanse on turn 1, which was pretty good, but
it just feels
we
like
can see there on
bring
turn
plus
3 he
something
didn't get
is great.
Homer.
Yeah, he has to get a 20, right?
Yep.
And he got 25 this game. So, anyways, Ritual being a weird mission that people don't play that a lot is certainly one of those like practicing the tempo of that mission. Is important.
Yeah. This also definitely seems like the kind of army that, especially once Ansthea, you realize how quickly the sisters are going down, to just stop spawning objectives. Like, just go kill them. Like Noah was saying. Like, yeah. Just go murder the Chaos Knights. That's your win
for a lone knight to come take at some point.
Yeah.
Also, we're going to take tactical. Put the sisters in strat reserve.
Yeah.
I keep seeing people be like, "You're going to kill my trash anyway. I'm just going to let you kill it."
Yeah, damn, dude. They did open up reserves to everybody in 8th edition or 9th edition. When did they introduce strat reserves? I don't know. Point is, a long time ago.
All right.
All right, sweet.
Head on to the next
Moving on to Nikolai, and he is playing into another man named Steven, who is not playing Custodes. Lucas, why don't you run us down Steve Trimble's Death Guard list? Which, whew, what a matchup.
This is a Steve list if I've ever seen one. We've got 3 Biologist Putrefiers. We got 3 Foul Blight Spawns. One's got Shamble Rot, so that's -2 to charge. We've got Morbtarian himself, the king of Ignore mods, baby. He's fucking back. We've got 2 squads of 10 Plague Marines with 5 heavy plague weapons, 2 Spewers, 3 plasma guns, and a Blight Launcher. And then we've got 1 squad of 10 with 5 heavy weapons, 1 Spewer. Was this like a model thing?
They're basically the same. They have 4 bubotic weapons, so they hit a bit harder.
Oh, he's got a melee squad. Okay, interesting. That's pretty cool. I actually vibe with that pretty hard. 3 Rhinos, 3 PVCs with entropy cannons, aka the bad unit, and 1 singular triple Nurgling Swarm. How'd this game go, Nick?
I will say PVCs are not the bad unit. The entropy cannons, not so hot compared to the flamers, though.
True.
But the mortar, fucking horrifying for my army. So this was basically Ritual Scrambler Fields was the mission that Tyler and I saw in the mission pack, and we're like, if we're gonna lose any round, it's that round. Like that just cancels our army mechanic. It's gonna be super tough. Hopefully we don't play against pressure on that, so we can take cleanse homers. And I get matched into Steve Trimble, the king of pressure, like round 2. And I'm like, cool, I can't take cleanse homers into this guy because I need all my activations to do damage. He's gonna come running at me. My default approach was actually gonna be Homer's Assassinate, because every time I played against Steve, he uses every unit in his army. He's really good at doing that. But that means that like he's either in your DZ killing you, or you've killed him and all of his characters and you've max assassinated. But Lucas brought up the point, he's like, you might not kill 30 Plague Marines. Like, your army has relatively low damage. One of your highest damage units is that Warrior Brick, which is going to go down in like 2 turns to the PVCs. Bring it down might be better, like, because you're probably going to kill the 3 Rhinos. You might pick up a PVC there. That's like 12 points right there. And I'm like, fair enough. If we're just playing for like the 32 secondary floor, right, and like denying primary, seems a lot safer. So yeah, this matchup, what's critical to this matchup is wrapping the Rhinos with the Chronomancer squad. So we talked a little about the squad. So this squad is the 20 warriors with the Chronomancer, 1 CP, 3-inch deep strike. It shoots and then it fire and fades 5. This also gets around scrambler fields because you're able to move onto them after deep striking, even though you can't deep strike on them. So you're still able to get the 1 turn of denying all their primary, which is like super valuable. And also you can get, 1.1 inches away from like transports, and now they can't disembark. And what's great about Plague Marines is a 10-man Plague Marine squad with 2 40mm base characters. This is a humongous amount of space that needs to fit wholly within 3 inches of the Rhino. So even if you wrap like 2/3 of the Rhino, they're not getting out of it. Like, and also too, like, yes, there's going to be some situations that come up where you can't like wrap the Rhinos and stop them from disembarking, but you can be like, hey, if you disembark, you're disembarking out of the back of the Rhino, and now you're out and you're not charging anything meaningful, which is also fantastic because now it's a turn if I get to shoot them and hopefully do enough damage that with Ignore Mod's Mortarion, they don't one-shot Catan when I charge them later in the game. So for this, the mortars are also terrifying, right? Because they're all D6 plus 3 plus blast, which is going to be 4. So it's going to be D6 plus 7 or D6 plus 6, you know? And they're also going to ignore the -1 to hit from the Chronomancer. They're going to ignore the, you know, -1 to hit for being indirect, and they're going to ignore the AOC from Xeris. So I'm basically just like, cool, you get to like shred a warrior brick. Let's go next. So I could have started the warrior bricks off the board, but if I go second, I need to be able to instantly respond with the Chronomancer move block. Like if Steve goes first and advances all the rhinos forward, I need to be able to bottom of his turn 1, pick them up and then drop them in my, you know, the round bottom of 1. So I put both the warrior squads on the board because I was like, I either get to 3-inch the Plasmancer squad and like move block the rhinos and shoot you, or I get to do the Chronomancer whole fire and fade bullshit, yada yada. But like I'm giving you the opportunity to shoot one or either of these squads with your PBCs. So he opted to shoot after the more damagey unit because he was more afraid of the Plasmancer unit, I believe. Which makes sense. I took Bring It Down, right? If that unit's fully alive, it probably kills like a PVC on the drop. And also I think he was worried he wouldn't kill enough of the Chronomancer squad to effectively stop the like, you know, move block fire and fade shenanigans. So the PBCs killed them at a ridiculous rate. I was like, holy cow, I'm losing all my warriors by bottom of 2. This is bad. And the Catan were just kind of like lingering. I think I might have another picture if you want to go to the next slide real quick. I went first. Yeah, so this doesn't expose the whole game. I went first.
Let's go, dude.
I wasn't able to do the Chronomancer thing turn 1, but he comes out, he, you know, drives his rhinos up, he spawns an objective. So then top of 2, the Chronomancer squad comes down, it full wraps the melee squad rhino, and then it basically traps the other rhinos in such a way that if he wants to disembark, he's disembarking out of the back. And I'm also giving him a 0 on turn 2, which is great. Like the whole point of this matchup is slowing down his ability to cross the field so I can get 15s and he can get like, you know, maybe some 5s and 10s later on in the game. Because he's going second, he's probably getting a 15 at the end. It's kind of bad. So he was able to just full kill this warrior squad with like grenades plus or double grenades plus plague marine shooting. And I know I have the 2 CP pull the unit away, but like it's not that effective because he still has 3 PBCs that can shoot and kill them. And also after, you know, double grenades and flamers, like the warrior squad was like 4 guys left. It was just like, cool, sounds good. So he manages to do that. He doesn't, those plague marines that get out of like the back of the rhino have a 9-inch charge into the void dragon, like a 9 or a 10. They don't land it. Cool, sounds good. I wasn't that afraid if they did because they're outside of Mortarion aura range. They don't kill them on average. And then my Nightbringer and the Void Dragon get to come in and kill that unit. So, as you can see, the Monolith kind of like, I dropped it down on the top. I'm just using the Monolith and the Warriors to go after PBCs, and I'm just farming my Homer's points with the Transcendent. And then on turn 3, I start walking Locusts in there to get the Homer's points as well. If you want to send it on to the next slide. Basically, this game goes pretty decently. I have this decision point where I can either try to keep playing the flanks or I can go in the middle and try to get my Bring It Downs. And I'm like, I can pop this one rhino that I full wrapped, which is no longer full wrapped because the warriors are dead. And I can pop it and get my 3 points. And I can pop the other rhino and get my 3 points. But now I've like gotten the Plague Marines out, so I need an answer for them. So I was like, through shooting and Monolith, maybe I can like get this one Plague Marine squad trapped in combat. Because the big thing is like Death Guard have no fallback and do anything, right? So if I can just keep him in combat with my tanky units, I can keep slowing him down. I can keep the primary lead up. I can keep the secondary lead up. And so I do this play where I send the Catan to the middle, which is what this picture is showing here. So the Transcendent comes down from doing his Homer's job to support the middle. I've got, you know, Trash doing Homer's up in the top. The Void Dragon and the Nightbringer both charged a Rhino. Because the goal was Void Dragon kills Rhino, Nightbringer then gets to pile into the Plague Marines who now don't have fights first because I can charge them and get to chop them in half with the Nightbringer. But unfortunately, the Void Dragon biffed into the Rhino, so the Nightbringer just one-shot the Rhino afterwards, and now I'm sitting there with 10 Plague Marines looking at me, or like 9 Plague Marines looking at me, and I'm like, all right, well, sure hope you don't kill me with Ignore Mods next turn. I baited Steve a little bit with this Monolith here. He heroiced it with Morty, which didn't kill the monolith because I popped the 4-up invuln, and now Morty's stuck in combat too. So I'm like, fantastic. You can fall back and give your aura, or you can sit in combat with the monolith and not give your aura. 2 choices.
Nice move, dude. Nice move.
But yeah, that was kind of the game. I also just kept picking up this Transcendent. So the nice thing about the Transcendent is he has the Deep Strike ability innately. So you can just pick him up with one of your pickups and drop him down and go for 9 inches out of Deep Strike, which is fantastic. If he decides to do the advance and teleport, he can't because he advanced. So that's just the thing that I found myself doing a lot, because at some point in the game you have more pickups than you have units to want to do them with. So yeah, I just kept assaulting his objectives he was spawning, because I can't, at this point, I can't drop on them. I can't fire and fade onto them. So I end up just hitting his like weak flanks with a Transcendent and some trash coming out of strat reserves and denying primaries, which is great. And yeah, the game ends with 90-64 victory for the Necrons.
Nice
work.
Do I see here that you have like accidentally ended up with a lone Chronomancer after all the warriors died?
Yeah, he killed all the warriors and did like 1 damage to the Chrono, and he was just chilling there.
Dude.
He gave me 5 primary, and then like I passed to Steve, and Steve mortared the hell out of him because he was smart. Because that guy would have 3-inch fire and faded and stolen some of the sticky objectives in the backfield that Steve didn't have units on anymore.
Yeah.
So I was really hoping he wouldn't mortar it, but he was a smart lad.
Totally. Yeah, this is exactly the kind of matchup where solo Chrono pops off. Yeah. Fair enough.
And also Xeris' lone op was super fantastic for securing me some primary. Xeris is off screen there, getting me like, what is it? Yeah, helping me get the 10s and the 15s. And he's just running around the backfield spawning objectives because he's not important anymore. The warriors are dead. He doesn't need to provide buffs to anyone. He can just do that. And I think eventually at the end of the game, I just flood the midfield with OC, and Xeris comes in as well. And he's like, I'm in combat with Plague Marines with a Catan and a Monolith. You can't kill 3 of us. Sounds good.
Nice.
So,
200 point objective spawner, 300 point homer getter. Just fun.
Yeah, it was good.
Necrons, baby. I love it.
This hypercrypt things, dude.
This army is so cool. Having really big, beefy units whose job isn't to kill shit is awesome.
This was also my one mission of the weekend, getting to play on layout other than 1. This was layout 3. So if I forget to say it the rest of the weekend, I played layout 1 every other game after this. This was also I went first on this one. Yeah, this was there's one game where I get to go second.
Excellent. All right, sweet. Let's head on down to round 3. We're playing Purge the Foe, the worst mission, Chilling Reign Crucible of Battle. Sick. And I have played back-to-back Custodies, who are one of the top armies, especially in singles right now. Let's see if I can get a break and pair something a little bit easier. No, it's time for the mirror match, baby. Let's go. Time to get bagged. I'm playing Joshua Bagwell, who is a legend, and I have to give a big shout out here. He lent me the monolith that I used this weekend, and then I paired into him. So I had his monolith under my control fighting against his monolith under his control, which was very funny. And I've got this this sick photo here of his Void Dragon coming for my Void Dragon. Nick, you want to run through the Hypercrypt list that Bagwell is playing?
Yeah, I remember I gave him some advice before the game. I was like, hey, if you want to win, just take your monolith back from Tyler, dude. Just tell him you can't borrow it. Imagine. No. Yeah, so Bagwell's running a very interesting version of Hypercrypt. He's got the Nightbringer, Void Dragon, Transcendent, so the same 3 Catan we're running. But he has opted for 2 Hex Marks, which are fantastic. Being a lone op, they're like a great thing to have in the backfield. I would have loved to put one in our list, but we just couldn't find the points. One of the Hex Marks carries Dimensional Overseer, so that's the 4th pickup put down. He also brought the 6-man Wraith Squad, which is something that some Hypercrypt players have been talking about as a way to, kind of have like another tanky unit in the midfield, or a way to kind of dissuade pressure. He's got a Technomancer in that unit with a Risen Tyrant, a little bit of a strange choice. Reroll hits on the Wraiths the turn they drop in isn't that valuable, but I'm sure this was just like, I have some extra points laying around. Let's try it. A cool thing about the Technomancer with the Wraiths is the Technomancer in the Wraith squad gives the unit the infantry keyword now, because the Technomancer's infantry, so they're able to be pulled through the monolith with the Eternity Gate ability. Yeah. So you can do some really goofy shit, like if someone shoots the Wraiths, you can be like, yeah, and I'm over here now. Or someone punches the Wraiths. Also being able to pull the Wraiths out of combat, one of the biggest weaknesses of Wraiths is getting stuck in combat because they can't kill anything. So that's super cool. And if the monolith started... Really, yeah, and if the monolith started that turn on the board, you're allowed to spend the 2 CP stratagem to allow the unit to charge that you just pulled through. So like if the monolith's defending,
that's where the Arisen Tyrant comes in.
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, because you pull them with the monolith. Because it lets that unit, like if the monolith's holding out an objective and your opponent puts some stuff on it, you can be like, here's 6 wraiths with reroll hits that are now charging you at a 1-inch charge. Have fun. So yeah. He's got 5 death marks as well, and he's got a single Doomsday arc. He's got the mentioned monolith with the scam cannons and a Tesseract arc, which is the funny little General Grievous wheel bike Forge World thing. So yeah, tell us about this game, dude.
Yeah, it was crazy. So this game kind of starts what I think was like the most unfortunate arc for me of this weekend, which has nothing to do with Warhammer and just to do with my body kind of shutting down on me. It was pretty dry up there, but like the moment I started thinking really hard in this game, because it's a hypercrit mirror, we're gonna think real hard. My nose just like started bleeding like profusely, and like I'm a guy with a nose that bleeds sometimes, like everybody. Like that's kind of whatever. I know how to deal with that. This was absolutely absurd. Just crazy amounts of blood. Shout out to Noah as a former Marine and current dad who knows how to do a little bit of field medicine. Got me through this. But this entire game, I just had stuffed up my nose because I was bleeding like a madman. But yeah, Josh in this round. There's going to be a lot of thinking here, but he's also got to try to leverage the ways that our lists are different, as do I. In my mind, the Warriors are what's going to make my list better than his, because I can do damage to him in ways that he can't deal damage to me, and I can deny his primary in ways that he can't deny mine. In his mind, the Wraiths and the durability are going to be his advantage into me, because I don't really have a Wraith-shaped solution, right? Like even the Plasmancer squad into the Wraith, I hand them 24 wounds. Cool. They take 6 damage and lose. Oh no, not even, because they take 12. No, they take 8 damage and lose like a wraith and like 2 wraith. Cool. Like maybe if I line that up with some scam cannons and a charge, like I can eventually work my way down. But until I can get a Catan in there to precision out the techno, that unit's just going to get to do what it wants. And this comes in real clutch here. When turn 1, he draws. What does he draw? Turn 1. I'm going to go ahead and pull a square. He draws area denial behind. Behind isn't happening. It's turn 1, and he just rams his wraith onto the center objective. And I'm like, fair enough, dude. Fair enough. He does need a 2-inch advance or a 3-inch advance, which he fails, and then command rerolls, which was very sketchy, but it worked.
Sorry,
he gets up there.
He went first in this matchup?
He went first. Yeah, absolutely. Which is huge. The moment that I know that I'm going second on Purge, like the game is kind of over. Which
second in the Hypercrit Mirror.
Yeah, second in the Hypercrit Mirror on a go second mission. Like that's as good as it gets. Unfortunately, I then immediately draw tempting target area denial. And he's like, right here, dude. Center objective. What are you going to do about it? And I'm like, nothing, dude. Fuck that. I'm burning both of those. Absolutely not, brother. You can't see here at all because, of course, it's a hypercrit mirror, so like stuff went everywhere. But I started both my Catan and Xeris at the bottom here, aiming at his sort of natural expansion objective. Because we sort of both agreed, or not both agreed, but we both were like, yeah, you can just put a little bit of stuff over there. And I said, absolutely not. I'm taking that from you. That's mine for the whole game. I'm throwing both Catan and Xeris at it, and that'll be enough. And it totally was. He had a Tesseract arc that he ran over there who tried to like hide while holding it. But unfortunately, with the way that GW Train works, both of my Catan were able to shoot at it and do some decent damage to him. No one hit their charges, which was a bummer, but we got there eventually. So I took that as my stronghold, and then I teleported my monolith up to the top left. In this picture, that is his monolith? Yeah, because this is like turn 4 or 5. Oh, man. The fact that our monoliths were identical was confusing. I put a bunch of rubber bands on mine to make it clear whose was whose. So I threw my monolith up to the top left, brought warriors with it. Eventually, I threw my katana to the bottom right, and he said, "All right, cool. The wraith are going to run right up to the top left, and the Nightbringer is going to drop in and raw dog a 9. The Nightbringer hits his 9 out of strat reserve into the warriors, which is big sad. And the wraith also get into combat, and he's like, "This is my objective," and I'm like, No, it's not. We just keep bullshitting our way into denying that while taking our thing. The Chronomancer squad drops in and runs all the way down the diagonal. They take his home field from him. They take the midfield from him, which means he doesn't get a hold that turn. Like not hold more. He doesn't get a hold. And yeah, he doesn't get a kill on his turn either. He ends up getting a kill on my turn, which is a massive bummer because I was like, no kill, no hold, no kill more, no hold more. But he gets a 4 because he got a kill on my turn where I didn't fall out of combat with a unit that could have. But yes, this was crazy. I end up eventually just like having my Nightbringer and Xeris show up and line up 9s on his home field, and the Nightbringer ends up making it because we need to take him off objectives. His monolith gets to shoot at my monolith, and oh my god, did he hit both? I think he hit both raw dog 9-inch charges with the monolith and with the Nightbringer on the same turn to get onto that home field. I was like, all right, man. But his monolith also shoots at my monolith and rolls his 4 shots and gets 13 hits.
It's
cool, dude.
Skill issue.
Evidently. Fortunately, they're winning on 5s. So they didn't end up doing a ton of damage, but it did do a lot of damage. But yeah, so we deny a bunch of primary, we take a bunch of stuff, we score secondaries better than he ends up scoring, and going second is just huge, right? Like I was able to take a lot of his stuff apart here. The best moment is you can see I've got those 2 scarabs, and that my Void Dragon there has that 9-inch stick next to him. That's one of these cool, fiberglass ones. Love them. They're so flat. You just put your models on top of them. I was like, all right, he deep struck his DDA into my home field to try to shoot me off of it, which I think he did successfully. He killed the Chronomancer who was enabling the Scarabs to have objective control, to hold the objective. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll drop in the Void Dragon. He'll shoot and try to charge. I'll throw a couple other things, including some Scarabs at it. Like, hopefully we can get this thing down. I shot the Monolith at it as well, if I'm not mistaken. The frickin' Void Dragon, of course, his spear does nothing because it never does anything. Does some damage. Some other shooting does some damage. And then he's got 4 wounds left at the end of my shooting phase after I fail my charge. But the Scarabs go in. They charge. They get in. They explode. Roll the full D3 mortals for 3 mortals. Drop them to 1. And then they just, with their 8 attacks and lethal hits, put like 2 saves on him, and he fails one of them. Oh, and the DDA dies to Scarab melee was beautiful. But yeah, we end up with the Transcendent Catan chilling on this bottom right objective, which ends up becoming my new safe objective as he's trying to take me off of other stuff. We eventually close on his home field. The Void Dragon is a really awkward model just in general to move around. So I kept giving him like good enough things to do with it that kept it kind of running in circles sort of around his home field without actually getting to do what he wanted to do with it, which was, get into some meaningful stuff. But yeah, this was kind of a run circles and hope it works out kind of situation. And when you're going second in a Hypercrit Mirror on Purge the Foe, like there's just not a ton that Josh can do. He ends up going down 87-61. So good game to him there. But yeah, that is the first Hypercrypt Mirror of the weekend, and we come out on top. Sweet. Meanwhile, Lucas is playing his Chaos Knights into Tau. Nick, as you're embarking on your Tau journey, you want to run us through this incredible Tau list?
All right. So, yeah, this Tau list is pretty cool. We got 2 Cadre Fireblades. Those are the guys who give the +1 attack to the ranged weapons and their units. 2 Cold Star Commanders. They both have 4 Sibs and 2 Shield Drones. One's got Exemplar of the Kauyon. One's got Precision of the Patient Hunter. We got Dark Strider for the no deep strike within 12. 2 squads of 10 Breachers. 2 Devilfish for those Breachers. A big squad of 6 Crisis for the Exemplar of the Kauyon Commander. They all have 1 Sib, 2 Plasma Rifles, a Shield Generator, and 2 Shield Drones. I do like this a lot. I think the Plasma Rifle's kind of slept on right now. I mean, for the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks where it'll be allowed. We got 2 Hammerheads, which I'm sure will be a fair and balanced unit. 2x10 Kroot, 3 Solo Piranhas, 2 Riptides with the Ion, and 3 Tetras. Tell us about this game, Lucas.
Well, as far as Talus go, like this is definitely a scary one, right? Like he doesn't have any fodder breachers. They both have fire blades. He's got a lot of sibs, which like are a reasonably efficient weapon into dogs. But most importantly, he has those 2 hammerheads, which like if positioned properly can watch long angles on the board. I played layout 1, so my first 2 rounds were on layout 3, and then for the rest of the tournament I'll play layout 1. This ends up being a pretty close game. I won't spend a bunch of time talking about it. Really not taking Bring It Down, it's just leaving points on the table. So it's a choice of whether or not I want to take Assassinate or take Homers. I figure, because I really don't want to let him into my backfield for Homer purposes, because I'm assuming he's taking Bring It Down as well, that I want to screen that with my demons, so I don't really want to spend actions on Homers. I ended up playing Tau again later this tournament, so I do different over in that game. Not quite sure why. But I ended up taking Assassinate just because I figure, I'll probably kill the Fire Blades and maybe I can kill a commander or 2 and get a 16 on it. I went... No, he goes first here, and he does the stupid thing where you just drive up for no discernible reason to take pot shots and give up kill 1, kill more on turn 1. So that was pretty foolish of him. But yeah, from there it's just like standard CK into Tau things. It's a really good matchup for CK because all of their guns are strength 8. They have terrible leadership, which means A, they can't guide, and B, they can't use any of their very essential stratagems. So yeah, that's pretty rough. And so it's a really CK favored matchup, but the Hammerheads helped him out a little bit and had some scares later on in the game when the homie overwatched with the Hammerhead repeatedly, also like with no hesitation, like he just fucking knew it was going to happen. He's like, all right, I'm going to overwatch you. I'm like, oh yeah, for sure. You're going to like chip this carnivore a little bit in the way. And he's like, nah, Hammerhead, bangs the 6, immediately kills my carnivore, which was going to go kill the Hammerhead. Okay, cool, dude. Great plan. Does it again the next turn, and the exact same thing happens. So I'm like, okay, so now I've already had 2 cancer matchups, and now I'm getting scammed by Hammerheads. Am I going to lose? And luckily, I'm able to clutch this game by 4 points. But Jesus Christ, that was scary.
I remember you telling me that you had an opportunity to go get way more points, but you'd had to expose another carnivore to the Hammerhead, and you're like, if I sit here and do nothing.
This was the third. Yeah, I had a stalker in the middle of the board, and I said, well, if I auto pass this and stand still, here's all the points that are going to happen. I'm going to win by 4. Cool, I'm going to do that. What would have happened if I would have moved my stalker? He's like, well, of course I would have overwatched you, and he hit the 6. I'm like, well, that would have been a 3rd dog dead. Like, this is so stupid. So thank God I didn't.
Railgun, dude.
Railgun. Truly just a skill game.
Did this man have a favorite Hammerhead rolling dice? Like, what the hell is happening here, dude?
He had these dumb Tau dice. Jesus Christ.
All right. Jesus. Well, props for pulling it out, dude.
Well done to Alec, dude. Absolutely no fear in the face of the Chaos Knights.
Just roll 6.
He also did the smart thing that no one does against CK and like tags them. Because low-key, the weakest part of this army is like getting tagged. Even carnivores. Yeah. Like I always tell people this when they're like, how do I deal with carnivores? Charge them with 10 guys. Like they don't kill 10 guys. And if one dude survives, like look how stupid think about how stupid I'm gonna look when a carnivore has to remain stationary with one idiot in combat next turn. Like that's gonna feel bad.
It's the same number of units that he would have killed if you didn't tag him, but now he's like 20 inches back. Like, do it.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Sick. All right. Well, props to Alec for trying to keep the dream alive, but props to Lucas for making it happen. So it's 2 3-0s on the day. And Nick is also playing a Hypercrypt Mirror. Let's go. And also a wacky list. So Nick is running into Nightbringer, Void Dragon, Double Hexmark, just like Bagwell. Cool. He's got 2 Technomancers, 2 6-man Wraith units, but no Monolith Insight to suck them through. And then he's got 3 Solo Locusts, 3 squads of 3 LHDs with Gauss Destructors. This man is going to roll 9 dice, and some number of those are going to convert to 6 damage each. We'll see how many, but it's some number less than 9. Probably. It might be 9. And then 3 squads of 3 Tomb Blades for some more Fire and Fade madness. This is totally also a reasonable solution to the problem that the Chronomancer is trying to solve. How many points are 3 Tomb Blades?
Fairly cheap. My gut wants to say 75. Probably around that.
Yeah, 75 on the nose. Gotcha. So a little bit more expensive than the Solo Chrono, but obviously does a lot more things, has more OC, moves faster, scouts. Not a bad unit at all. I dig it. So, Nick, tell me about how your Hypercrypt Mirror went. Hopefully there was less blood than in mine.
Yeah, there was no bloodshed in this. Just a bunch of oil. So Tanner and I read this list on the way up to the tournament. I'm like, holy shit, this guy's got 9 Locust Heavies. This guy's penis was humongous, dude. Dude,
can you confirm?
Insane. I show up to the table and I'm like, 9 Locust Heavies? Hell yeah. And he's like, I hate them. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. He's like, they've done nothing. This was a humongous mistake. You're going to roll over me. And I'm like, I don't know, man. You might one-shot the monolith. And then I went second, and he's like, good game. And then scouts all of his Tomb Blades forward. I'm like, okay, let's play. So unfortunately, his Tomb Blades don't kill anything turn 1, so he doesn't get kill 1. I thought he was trying to aggressively go towards my Scarabs, but not enough damage because they have Tesla. It's only 2 shots a guy. So I get kill 1, kill more because I went second. This mission's a little silly going second. I then do an aggressive Monolith Warrior play. Yeah, I do an aggressive Monolith Warrior play to kill the Tomb Blades on the top. I'm just trying to knock him off objectives because he did aggressively be I'm getting hold more. And I'm like, what if I killed everything? Or 3-inch Deep Strike a Catan over here and out OC'd you because there's only 1 Tomb Blade on this objective or whatever. Yeah, it was pretty good. I also did a big advance on the Void Dragon to get onto the top left objective. And so I guess my safe objective. And so that meant that when he picked up his Locust Heavies next turn, they would be coming in from strat reserves, and he wouldn't be able to bring in all 9 from strat reserves to shoot the monolith, only 2 squads. And I also screened out the 3-inch Deep Strike. So it was basically if he wanted to, he could 3-inch Deep Strike behind the monolith. But then that unit's instantly dead because it's in my backfield. So he definitely could have taken all 9 shots at it if he wanted to. He didn't. He only brought 6 in. He brought the other 3 in a safer place. I popped the 4-pin bolt. He got 2 through to 12 damage to the monolith. Sounds good. He bangs a big charge from the Void Dragon to my Void Dragon. We sit there for a bit. I kill his Void Dragon next turn because I can shoot it because it's in combat and it's a monster. The Warrior Plasmancer squad gets picked up by the monolith, and I guess we haven't really talked about it that much, but the Eternity Gate ability, right, is the ability the monolith has to, in your reinforcement step, take any infantry unit that you have on the board or in reserves. If it's on the board, you very briefly put it into reserves, and then you immediately pull it out of reserves, and you redeploy it wholly within 6 inches of the monolith, an inch away from enemy models. This is fantastic with Arisen Tyrant because Arisen Tyrant is the enhancement that says every time you're set up on the battlefield, you get full hit rerolls, which now with the Plasmancer means this unit has 5s explode lethal, and you're just fishing for 5s. So it looks really funny because it's Warrior Squad shuffles over a little bit so Monolith can move forward 3 inches, and then Monolith goes and pick you guys back up right in front of me, and now you've been redeployed, get full hit rerolls. Which absolutely wrecks the Catan because you just basically throw 25 wounds on it. And then also shoot some mortals out of the Plasmancer. His wraiths were pretty good. He, then flooded the objective with the wraiths, but got a big charge, so couldn't hide his Technomancer. So I just epic challenge out the Technomancer. And at this point, then I do the whole Chrono Fire and Fade, yada yada, and pass to him, and he gets 0 primary. And he's kind of you've killed my Locust Heavies, you've killed my Void Dragon, you've neutered one of my Wraith squads, you've taken my home field. I have 4 primary. I think this game's about wrapped up, dude. And I was all right, man, good game. So if you want to,
that was on turn 1.
No, this is turn 3.
Okay, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, our game was very fast. We finished this game in half an hour. As you can see here, right? He he gets like a 4 on primary turn 2, and then he gets like a kill 1, hold 1, and then he gets like a kill 1. But yeah, I get like hold 1, kill more like all the time, and at the end of the game, getting like hold more. We both opted for tactical because like neither of our armies give anything up. But it was just like he got some pretty good ones turn 1, cleanse, secure, no man's. But after that, his army just started going down, and my army was still around because I was killing his trash and denying primary, and he was just trying to like wail against Catan and warriors with no effect. So he knew too. He was like, these Gauss destructors ain't it. He's like, I want some Enmitic exterminators next time. And I'm like, let's go, dude. Well, so great game to Adam. I didn't get a picture of his army because we were tired and we just kind of set up, and then the game ended, and I'm like, oh shoot, I need a picture, and he was already gone. So I got a picture of the board that we were on, which was a pretty cool board. So yeah, this is a very functional board, painted well, and yeah, goofy game.
A+ for this kind of terrain. Great. Very cool. All right, so all 3 of the boys are finishing day 1 undefeated. It's been a minute since that happens. So this was a fun place. I think we were the only homies that were undefeated at this point. Did any of our other boys make it out 3-0? I think it was just us.
No, Lucas muted. A lot of people
Lucas
were 2-1.
muted. Yeah.
Canna was 2-1. Pina was 2-1. Max was 2-1.
Trimble's 2-1. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Well, let's move on into day 2 then. Yeah, I should do the plugs. Thanks, Nick. Where did my little thing go? Well, thank you so much for enjoying the show so far. I hope you're having a good time. We really encourage you to check out some of the other shows on the network while you're here. The other shows is, of course, being Stat Check, the original, which records somewhat weekly, covering all of the data in Warhammer, as well as talking about whatever other kind of nonsense they find appropriate. The other awesome shows on the network include X and One for anyone who's interested in learning how to balance this really challenging and demanding hobby with the real world out there. If you're a dad or a mom, I suppose, and you also have a job and you also try to play Warhammer, that's kind of hard. So listen to their show, talk about how to get the most out of the hobby while playing competitively without having infinite hours to grind like us randos do. On the other end of the spectrum, if you want the most high-intensity, cutting-edge, 8-man teams, 40K oriented content, check out Enter the Matrix with Typhus and Nathan, I think are the official full-time hosts of that show at this point. X1 being hosted by Cliff and Tim. Those are all great, worth listening to. If you're in the need for some other nonsense, we definitely recommend you check out some of our sponsors who sell some awesome stuff. Check out our sponsor, Red Dragon. If you're a patron to Stat Check, you get 20% off the entire store at red-dragon.ca. If you're anywhere in the northeastern US or Canada, the shipping there is not too bad. Check out Saltire Games on Etsy. They sell a bunch of really cool widgets. They don't sell these particular widgets. They sell Stat Check widgets, which are awesome. Love those. They are based out of the UK, I think, so shipping is a little bit much over to the States. But if you're anywhere in the UK or Europe, those are fantastic. Love those widgets. If you're looking for terrain to play more of this team-oriented 40K that we talk about so much, check out Wayland Yutani and save 5% with discount code StatCheck5. They're the official terrain makers for the World Team Championship. So if you want to play what the best are playing on, that is the place to find it. If you're interested in supporting us and the work that we do more directly, you can check out that Patreon and keep the conversation going over in our Discord over at patreon.com/stat-check. And if you're looking to get the conversation going at a slightly higher, more involved level, you can check out stat-check.com/coaching to get some additional one-on-one mentoring experience from some of the wonderful content creators over here on Stat Check. So let's keep it going and head on into day 2. All right, round 4. It's the Lucas special. It's Vital Ground, Chilling Reign, Crucible of Battle. This is a very fun, if not a bit polarizing, mission. And let's get right into it. I am running into Grey Knights, highlighted by Jonathan. I don't remember Jonathan's last name. Love this kid. We all call him a kid. He's 20, but he looks like he's 11. Yeah. Lucas, you want to run us through this Grey Knights list here?
Sure. He's got 3 librarians on foot, Castellan Crow, 2 squads of 5 Strike Marines, a Land Raider Redeemer, classic Tyler Nemesis, 2x5 Interceptos, and 3 Nemesis Dread Knights with side cannons, incinerators, and hammers, as well as 10 Purifiers to join the Crow.
No, we've lost Tyler.
All right. We will not talk about this game. No, I mean, like, I think people starting to include Dread Knights as well as like the Grandmaster Dread Knights is pretty cool for GK. Like, it gives them a new avenue to actually like deal some damage that's not like showing up at 3 inches and frantically hoping that the Storm Bolters and Incinerators are enough. So I don't know. I think the Dread Knights are pretty cool. Also, like, both of them are viable for different reasons, which is pretty sick.
Yeah, absolutely. These Purifiers, man. This is a squad that I do not think that enough people are taking out in the world, and it may just be that it's particularly really good into my armies. But man, oh man, is that unit utterly terrifying. I lost my internet there for a second, so I'm not sure if you already ran through it, Lucas. But did you run down what the offensive output of this unit is?
Yeah, I don't know it like completely off the top of my head, but I know each dude is a Storm Bolter and then like an anti-infantry 2-up, like 4/1/1 ignore cover psychic gun or something like that. Basically, it shoots a gajillion shots at like strength 4, AP 1 or 0, 1 damage.
Also, all have a flamer.
That's the flamer I'm talking about.
So yeah, so every guy has Purifying Flame, which is 18-inch range, hits on a 3, 4/1/1, anti-infantry 2-up, ignores cover psychic. And then when you put Crow in the squad, that goes up to 2 shots instead of 1. So they have 20 shots at that profile, hitting on 3s, wounding any infantry on 2s.
And I think
at
he
AP1
also
ignores
has, like,
cover.
3 or 4 shots at that same profile, right?
He himself does that. And then 4 of them have incinerators. So they have 4 6/1/1 flamers, and the other guys all have storm bolters.
I forgot that they got the heavy weapons too. Holy shit.
Yeah. This unit warrior killer.
Yeah, this unit obliterates a unit of warriors. And yeah, Crow's Purifying Flame is 3 shots. I don't know if he gives himself the 4th shot. Yeah, he does. So yeah, 4 shots of Purifying Flame. So the unit in total has 24 shots, hitting on mostly 3s, some on 2s, wounding on 2s at 4/1/1 ignores cover. On top of the flamers, on top of the storm bolters. Like, terrifying. Am I still here? I imagine that if y'all both look like you're not here, it's my internet. Oh, I'm here? Okay, great. You're just staying still. But yeah, so this unit is terrifying. And of course, there's still 10 Grey Knights. So it's still 10 power armor dudes with 2-up saves and access to mists. So like you can't move near them or they just disappear and go do it again next turn. Yeah, this unit obliterates a unit of warriors. So that's the thing that I'm most scared of. Then there's the Redeemer, which is obviously like a very big threat that shoots very hard, and the Dread Knights, which are going to do their thing. Like, there's a lot going on here. Interceptors are much like, Interceptos in this case, are much like the Chronomancer Warrior Brick because they can show up at 3 and then fire and fade. Fortunately, it's only 5 OC, not 41, so like it's not quite as much OC to throw around as it turns out. But it's still enough that like it takes an objective from a Catan, which is very annoying. And we're playing on Vital Ground here, which can be pretty tricky in terms of primary. So I try to focus this game on point scoring a little bit more than on damage, but still trying to get as much utility out of those warriors as I can before they invariably die. So we, what this looks like is a hard commit to the top left objective. I do this all the time where I put both with Catan. But I say both. There are 3 on the list. I put the Void Dragon and Nightbringer and Xeris all in the same place and say, you're not coming over here. This is my objective. Thank you very much. And then if I need to be somewhere else later, I can do that. Because when you put, 11 OC of murder in one place, people aren't able to deny that, but that means they don't try. And if they don't try, then actually it's just Xeris and the Catan get to be somewhere else now, or I can stage from there pretty comfortably. So we go for that. And then the Warriors are just going to fuck around on the other midfield objective and try to deny that as much as they can. And we'll see how it shakes out. This plan overall works pretty well, except for the Purifiers killing warriors. So he turn 1 draws engage and throws a Dreadnought in the top left corner, Dreadnought in the top left corner to grab that engage, and says, "Yep, that's what we're gonna do." And I say, "All right, that's fine. I need to kill these Dreadknights because they do a lot of damage and they move very fast. So I'm just going to bring the Plasmancer squad. They're just going to walk in from Strat Reserve over there, light you up. And then I'm going to line up all my Catan shooting into you as well. And we will just kill the thing. And the Monolith will shoot as well." This was overkill, as it turns out. The Monolith just opened its eye and the thing disappeared. Which was a massive overcommitment then with the warriors there. 4-up invulns, really sketchy for Necrons because we have a lot of low volume shooting, other than the warriors, obviously. So, is what it is. But yeah, in this case, the Monolith just scammed him, disappears. Great. In response, he drops his Purifiers over there, which are a big problem because I don't really have a great solution for them. They've got a 2-up save, which is really hard for me to crack. And this is where probably I should mention the secret anti-Necron tech that nobody seems to know about. If you've made it an hour 50 into the show, you get to hear about this. If you ever play against Necrons, there's a stratagem in the big rulebook called Go to Ground. You should probably read it. Because Necrons rely a lot on this AP2 shooting that can avoid giving you cover by very careful positioning. And if you just go to ground, it doesn't matter how well positioned I am, you get cover. And suddenly, if you have a 2-up save, I'm doing half as much damage to you. So I couldn't really risk that with the Necrons going into the Purifiers. The only real way to do it is with some of the longer range, wackier shooting. But really what I want to do is get in combat with it. The problem is getting combat with a unit that can miss is really tricky. So I just kind of lined up a bunch of 9-inch charges into it, and the Void Dragon made it. And that's the whole game. If I don't make any of those 9-inch charges, I lose the game, probably. Because that unit would just rinse and repeat. Whereas what ends up happening is the warrior unit teleports over, not the Chronomancer unit drops into the bottom right there, shows up, and is really challenging for him to deal with. He kills a bunch of them, but not enough of them, because he doesn't want to, because like he can miss, I can teleport back to the Monolith. So the only unit that can one-tap the warriors is those Purifiers. I realize I haven't set this up properly. The Purifiers are a problem because they one-tap warriors. Nothing else in his army does. And if you don't one-tap warriors, they teleport back to the Monolith and rinse and repeat next turn. So because of that, he is able to line up his Librarians, which are great because they do the damage. They both roll 6s. So he does like 14 mortal wounds or something ludicrous like that. Maybe it was only like 10 or 11, but it just felt like a crazy amount. And then he tries to charge in with a bunch of different units. But Granite Melee is terrible. Like Strikes, Interceptors, Dreadknights, like they do not have any kind of volume. Obviously, the Dreadknights can do really good damage into heavy single targets, but into a unit of dudes that are -1 hit from a chrono, they just couldn't get it done. I just hung out there and like held the objective. Didn't even need to teleport away, which was pretty solid. And then, yeah, the Monolith just keeps pointing at things and scamming them. At one point, I managed to not quite kill a Librarian who's chilling in my backfield. So I just Raw Dog the 9 right at him, hit it, tank shock him, kill him, and then console back onto my home field. Very funny. It was the only Librarian I killed. But we're able to hold on the fort here pretty well. A turn after this image here, he ends up driving the Land Raider up and charging Xeris with it, which is a really smart move because the Land Raider out OCs Xeris, which will take some primary. Unfortunately, that let the Nightbringer Heroic into the Land Raider, which is bad news bears for a Land Raider. And the game might have ended right there, except that he pops AOC and just rolls some 5-ups, and the Land Raider ends up surviving, which denies me the primary. So, like, in the turn following this, I get a 7 on primary for holding the bottom right and my home field. It's just an absurd way to score primary. But yeah, this game ends up coming down to primary at the end of the day. I end up scoring 3 more secondary than him, which is nice, but really what it's about is these 10 points of primary that I'm able to take that he's not by pushing him back to 2s while I'm grabbing 7s, which ends up being putting it together. Oh, no, sorry. He outdoes me on secondary by 3. Yeah, so I ended up with a 7-point win here off of 2 5-point up on primary swings. Really good, really tight game. Getting those purifiers in combat is really important. They could just ruin me, and if none of those 9-inch charges hit, I'm just kind of out of luck. So you gotta play to your outs though, and do what we can here. It's a really great game, really well played by Sean. Had a ton of fun doing this. Sweet. All right, let's head on over to is it that time? Snap, I wasn't ready. I forgot about this part.
That time, dude.
Why isn't it doing the thing? There it is. Time for a team kill. Team kill. Team kill. Nick versus Lucas. TAC on TAC violence. Whose cuisine will reign supreme? Tell us about it, boys.
You want to go for it, Nick?
Yeah, I can start. I took pictures of our deployment zone, so if you're watching, you can see my deployment zone where my Monolith and my 40 warriors are cowering behind my deployment zone L, and my Catan are very carefully placed to not get shot turn 1. And then you can take a look at Lucas's deployment zone, which has the Great Wall of Skill, aka 12 Chaos Knights lined up on the line. Actually, 10. Sorry, 2 are in strat reserves. So it is a almost complete Great Wall of Skill. We got matched up on Vital Ground, which is a little bit spooky. This is a mission where primary is very hard to get and very important, because if you can get a big primary swing, you can kind of clinch the victory. I know in this matchup, I've played against Chaos Knights enough times that they are fantastic at denying primary. Every War Dog's OC8. If I put 2 Catan on an objective, all Lucas has to do is walk 1 War Dog up and pass to me, and I get it 0. If I put a Monolith on an objective, same thing. So really the only thing that can effectively hold an objective for me is Monolith plus Warriors, which Lucas can again just put enough stuff into it and clear it off. So it's I maybe get 1 turn of that Monolith Warrior sticking if I play my cards right. I had a pretty good idea of this going second. Lucas is going to walk forward. I'm going to pick the Chronomancer squad up. I'm going to move block his army and deny primary. I'm going to try to isolate the dogs that he puts on the objectives. If he does so, shoot them with the Monolith and the Warriors, get Catan into countercharge positions, pass to him, and then we start brawling. Unfortunately, I went first, so I did not have a great game plan going first. I took homers and bring it down, because that's just the best into CK in my experience. And I had a little bit of a weird decision here. Anything I put on the objectives is pretty stupid, because if I put it on the objectives, like I said, all Lucas has to do is walk a dog up and just deny the primary, and then he also gets to shoot whatever I put on the objective. If I put a Catan on that bottom right objective, his whole army's right next to it. He just gets to go, okay, I lock everything into it, I get sustained hit 6s into it, it's dead. Pass to you. You've traded me a Catan for nothing. Same thing in the top. If I throw the Monolith and the Warriors up top, which I can't do actually if I go first. So yeah. I basically have to accept I get a 2-1 primary and just get Catan into countercharge positions if he decides to put dogs on objectives. I do a little bit of a weird play here turn 1, which I'm interested in seeing how it works out. I'm going to teleport the Transcendent to your back corner turn 1. He's going to get me a 4 on homers, and now you have the decision of ignoring him and giving me a 20 on homers. And now you have a Catan in your backfield who's going to start threatening your home field, which on Vital Ground, 6 points a turn. Or you get to, walk forwards with your whole army and just start flooding the midfield and trying to knock me off of primary there. I know that Lucas decides to, I guess, without trying to go too much into it, do you want to give your idea about the openings of this game at all, or do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, I mean, that decision was pretty interesting, and I think it did end up playing a pretty important role in the outcome of the game. Whether I did end up deciding to go back, and with 5 Melta Lances getting within Melta range, I do manage to one-shot that Transcendent, which is pretty darn good. Unfortunately, I kind of knew this going in, but it was because there's only 1 point every turn between getting a homer in the middle and getting a homer in the backfield, and also in the next turn or 2, I'm going to try to void my backfield anyway. I know that I'm only really denying Nick like maybe 1 or 2 points on homers, plus needing to put other activations into it, which he has tons of other activations. So my main decision of why I did this was because I didn't want that Catan to just start like wobbling up on turn 3 and then threatening my home field objective. Like I wanted to still get some like 2s on primary back there with a stalker or something. So that was the big reason why I did it. Although I knew going in that it was going to put me very behind on tempo because the Chronomancer squad was going to move block me into oblivion. So I don't know if we have pictures of that.
I got that on the next page.
Why don't you go ahead and switch to that then? Yeah, I'll do it then. So yeah, here we have the Chronomancer squad. Part of the decision making actually of shooting that Catan, because I did exploding 6s on it, should have actually been, well, then I'm not shooting my mortars off into the warriors, because the mortars actually do a fairly good job of killing the warriors, not like wiping the squad, but even just like killing a third or half the squad means that, the warriors really, every model does matter on the warriors, because they try to, when they come down to 3 inches, they try to get as much value as possible out of that stratagem. Like they want to deep strike at 3, move block you, and steal your objective, and keep X unit from moving. Like they need a lot of models to be able to stretch out and get coherency and do all those things. It's a lot less possible when there's a lot fewer models. So if I was able to kill half that squad on turn 1, I think I would have been in a much better position. So that was also part of my calculus and why it took me so long to decide whether or not I wanted to go for that Transcendent. So yeah, and then on this turn, Nick comes down, moves, blocks me into oblivion, steals my primary, and from here, it's just a battle of trying to break out of a couple different waves of move blocking while finding good shots on the Catan, which are slowly making their way onto objectives. Nick does a pretty good job of like trickling them on at a rate where he knows I'm not going to get all the Meltalances into one given turn. So he makes the proposition of going for a Catan kill very scary, because I have to get within 12, and then if it doesn't work, I basically lost. And we do have that crucial like inflection point on turn 3 where I try to go for a Catan kill and it doesn't work. But then I'm seriously behind. There was also a point where I tried to break 2 carnivores through sets of walls with Knights of Shade and then charge into 20 warriors. And I figured between Tank Shock and the fighting, the carnivore should be able to flip that objective. Out doing the math after the fact, and now realize it's not that reliable because of AOC. And for some reason, that like I can't kill enough guys to flip the objective even with 16 OC. Not quite sure why, but yeah, that play basically threw 2 carnivores and 3 CP in the garbage can for 0 reason. So that's where the tilt kind of settled in for me as like this is doomed and nothing I'm doing is working. So from there, basically never get a secondary again because the low damage damage tripled me on turn 4.
Yeah. So like Lucas was saying in this game, after like move blocking him in, my goal now was like only 2 of these knights are going to be able to escape this wrap with Knights of Shade. So like if you want to start trickle feeding dogs to me, I have my 2 Catan on the bottom right objective, but they're like hidden behind the wall, so you're not going to be able to get a lot of shots into them. And then in the top objective, there was a lone carnivore that I responded to with like Monolith Warrior Kill, and he was able to get 2 more carnivores back into that. And that was when I was like, okay, this is the moment where like I have my 8 OC from the Monolith, I've got my Warrior OC. Like I need the warriors to have as much output as possible this turn to like kill these 2 carnivores, because my Catan are in the bottom objective tangoing with carnivores right now. So I auto pass the warriors. I'm able to bring 3 back. I'm able to get the objective, and that was like okay, this is the one time I'm able to like actually live up to 2 dogs on objectives, is like Monolith plus warriors. So that primary was pretty good.
That whole interaction, basically, I don't know, that didn't like win you the game, but like I said, it was me throwing 2 carnivores and 3 CP in the trash for literally 0 reason, because the Monolith can, supposedly one of the ways you can lock down Hypercrypt in theory is you tag their stuff so they can't teleport, but like the stuff you're tagging is the Monolith, which can just shoot you in combat, the Warriors, which can get sucked out, which counts as redeploying for some reason, and the Catan, which will just kill you unless you have a very specific defensive like profile lineup. So it doesn't really work for CK. A
a lot of this game is very similar to the Death Guard game, where the goal is to slow them down and force them to trickle feed into you, because you're really good at killing like a dog a turn, right? Like warrior unit plus monolith kills a dog, right? Catan probably kill 2 dogs between shooting and fight, like the Void plus Nightbringer combo. And then at that point, it's like once you've like killed their first wave and maybe like a few that have trickled through, you're kind of like low on resources. They're kind of low on resources, and now you're scrapping. And if you get like one good turn of Catan scamming, the game is over, which is exactly what happened on turn 3, like Lucas is saying. Because his bottom objective is at this point like where like all of his dogs are, and he's like, I'm gonna lock into killing this Nightbringer, and he left it on like 2 wounds, and it's like, that's it. Now I get to break out and crash through your dogs, and game's over. But freaking close game, dude. I mean, I don't know. This was like a very tense and frightening game for me. I know the score is what, 65-40. But yeah, I definitely saw this matchup and I was like, I'm gonna have to. I have like a pretty reliable, I can kill 5 dogs, but after that it gets sketchy, and I'm gonna have to hope it works out.
Well, he killed them all by turn 4, so it did work out.
Did indeed. But yeah, thanks for the game,
dude.
You are muted, Tyler.
Muted. Sorry. Well, in the interest of time, let's keep it rolling then. Heading on into round 5, the semifinals. Lucas, of course, someone had to drop up a game there, but of the couple people left in the running, round 5, we are playing Supply Drop, Chilling Reign, Search and Destroy. Talked about this last week. I don't know why it's in Levy Pack. Search and Destroy, Supply Drop should not go together, but here we are. It's a normal-ish mission. Like, we played this a bunch, and time to initially they had to repair. Well, not even important. Anyway, time for team kill number 2. All right, Jeez Louise, this is the pairing that we've all been waiting for. Nick and I have to play, and we're playing a mirror match. Fun. This will be great.
For those watching, or if you're listening and want to go back and watch, I've got a picture of our buddy Max Schwartzer who came over to watch our game halfway through. And this is basically like the game, the blank look as he stares off into the distance, detached from reality, as he watches 2 Hypercrypt players play against each other. It's basically how the mirror match goes,
Yeah, this is the game into Bagwell was fun because there was some like pretty significant differences in our armies. So like I'm trying to play to my strengths, he's trying to play to his strengths, and we'll sort of see who's able to muscle our way through that. Because we're playing identical lists, like it's a mirror match. Very exciting. Yeah. So yeah, you want to talk about a little bit of your opening move here, Nick? Because I think that was quite a maneuver you went for.
Yeah. So to correct some stuff, I know you're talking about repairing. We were a little bit confused about how pairings were going to work this round. BCP does this thing where the opponent game win percentage doesn't like finally calculate until you click like pair on the next round, or you click end event, which is something that some TOs seem to forget, that there's an end event button. No, it didn't for that, what that's worth. But we thought we were playing different people. So we like on lunch went through all of our strategies and everything, and then they clicked pair, and it was like Tyler and Nick are playing now because their opponent game win percentage is different now that we've clicked pair. And we were like, well, shit. All right, cool. And so we're both laughing on the way back from lunch. And we're like, well, whoever goes second on supply drop, where like the 15 end of game primary is huge, and also second in the Hypercrypt mirror, probably wins the game. Cool. So we have to deploy everything and come up with our opening like kind of strategy without knowing which objectives are going away. We roll off. And I go first. And I'm like, unfortunate. Luckily, I do get the nice supply drop where Tyler's safe objective is going away first. The middle is going away second. My safe objective is sticking around all game. So I'm like, there is an out. The out is push towards Tyler, castle on safe objective. Pray to God. So it was funny. We were back and forth on deployment, but since you put more stuff in strat reserves, you ended up having less drops. So I was waiting to deploy my Nightbringer till the very, very end because I had a sick position for it, and I didn't want you to copy me because you're copying everything else I was deploying, you bastard. So we do that. I go first. I'm like, I'm going to advance Xeris and the Nightbringer into the midfield and just try to secure 10 primary right now unless you want to throw like a bunch of assets at me. And Tyler was like, bet, I'm going to throw a bunch of assets at you, which makes sense. That's the correct move. Killed the Nightbringer. Expected. Bummer. Was hoping to like spike. Almost kills Xeris. Not expected. Thank God that didn't happen. Yeah. I know we both picked tactical because there's not a lot we're giving up. And at this point, I'm like, all right, little behind, but like we're securing the top objective still. That's great. We got our 5 primary. Tyler's got like Monolith castled on this objective down here. I'm not stealing that. I don't want to blow the Chrono Squad right now to deny 5 primary. I'd rather spend it later in the game to deny like 16, right? Or like I'd rather save it for an important moment to like wall you off of the 15 at the end. So I go for like this is when it begins the first of many risks. The Transcendent drops out of the sky, goes for a 9-inch rerollable charge. I guess kind of backing it up. What I've identified as like hypercrypt weaknesses and stuff that I hate when people do against me is tagging shit. Like if the Monolith is tagged, that's bad because they've effectively shut down 2 teleports, right? If the Warriors are tagged, that's bad. Not so bad if the Monolith's not tagged, but if you tag both of them in a turn, very bad because now the Warriors are only getting sucked out of combat to where the Monolith is. And so where the Monolith is Tyler's safe objective, the first objective going away. If I can keep the Monolith down there for most of the game, I've shut down like a lot of his mobility. Yep, so like I send Scarabs in to tag the Monolith because it has to get all 6 hits and all 6 wounds to break itself out of combat. I send the Transcendent in, he bangs a 9-inch re-rolling to tag the Chronomancer squad, so now that squad's not teleporting in and stealing my primary. We do a ton of damage to the Plasmancer squad, which you had to expose to kill the Nightbringer. And then at this point, Tyler's all, well, I'll let you decide what you're going to explain what you were saying next.
How do you mean?
Like, what were your thoughts after this? Like, I just tagged the Chronomancer. I've just tagged the Monolith. I've just killed a ton of the Plasmancer squad. My Nightbringer's dead. My Monolith and Warriors are up on the top. My safe objective, which is like the 15er. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts at this point?
Yeah.
Or
so
I guess go back to the beginning if you want to.
Yeah. No. I mean, I'm in a pretty recent position here. My thought at this point is okay. Cool. If Nick's gonna tag my shit by Raw Dog and 9s, like I'm gonna have to just deal with that. I need to get out of here. Obviously, the like he's tagged both the Monolith and the Chrono Squad, so the Chrono Squad has to get sucked to the Monolith. That's just the reality of the situation. In hindsight, I probably should have left the Chrono Squad at home because
now my Catan's trapped there too.
Yeah, they're tagged through the wall. So the Catan is never like epic challenging out the dude. And your 8 attacks +1 are going to kill like 4 or 5 warriors a fight phase. Like it's fine. I don't need that squad at full strength because there's no actual move blocking happening here. But I just sort of on instinct suck them away. I also at this point have started my 3rd massive nosebleed of the weekend. I didn't mention it, but it was happening during the Grey Knights game as well. So like
really? Jesus.
Yes. 3 straight games, 3 straight massive nosebleeds. This was by far the worst one of the weekend. Yeah, just breaking my head open thinking too hard. Yeah, so we try to collapse at the center a little bit, but at the end of the day, we need to take your home field. And if you're not going to let me get over there, I'm not gonna get over there. So we do I immediately pick up both Catan? Is this on turn?
If you were like, if you're gonna land 9s, I'm gonna land 9s.
Exactly. Like yeah, if Nick is gonna Raw Dog 9s, I'm gonna Raw Dog 9s right back at him, and that gets us to this picture here where Nick's got his Monolith on the home field, or not on the home field, on the 15 at the end. And I'm like, fuck it. I need to get over there. I need to get over there quickly. If you're not going to let the Monolith get over there, let me send the Catan. I line up both Catan, the Nightbringer, and the Void Dragon, you can see here, for 9-inch charges on the Monolith. And if either one of these guys gets in, it's bad news fucking bears for that Monolith. We're going to work our way through. We're going to take away Nick's ability to suck stuff off. We're going to get Nick's stuff tagged as well. And like whoever controls the Monolith controls the future here. If my monolith had managed to kill all 3 of those scarabs, he ended up killing 2.5 of them, which we need to roll 12 twos. Like, that's not realistic. But if it had happened, the monolith would also definitely be over here shooting. We don't end up doing a ton of damage into the monolith, and we fail all 3 of our 9-inch charge attempts, which is a big bummer. But we work through some stuff. We take some points back. We're doing okay on secondaries, and then Nick comes in with the fucking hammer blow and rinses and repeats on the next turn.
Yeah. So seeing that the Nightbringer and the Void Dragon have failed their charge, my Void Dragon's dueling your Transcendent, which I fall back from.
Oh yeah, forgot this was even happening. My Transcendent my Transcendent was trying to fight for that midfield objective, trying to zone stuff off of it. But yeah, your Void Dragon goes into him, and the 2 of them are just wailing at each other.
My Void Dragon falls back to move block the Void Dragon and Nightbringer charge. I pull my Reaper, my Plasmancer Warriors over, them plus the Monolith, finish off the wounded Transcendent because he was at 4 or 5 or something. And now I've ringed my Monolith and Warriors. So now Tyler has a much easier charge with the Nightbringer and the Void Dragon next turn. But they're only going to be charging Warriors. They're not going to be charging the Monolith. And they're also in range of the Xeris Aura, because it's 6 inches, because he killed some Scarabs turn 1. At this point, too, I bang another 9-inch charge at a Deep Strike with the Transcendent Catan to tag the Chronomancer squad. Unfortunate. We also finish off the remnants of the Plasmancer Warrior squad, and my Chronomancer Warrior squad has now teleported in to move block your Xeris and kind of get in the way of the Monolith or the Warriors just moving. It's if you want to do anything, you have to teleport. So this Monolith is still trapped here on this objective that's going to be going away. And my Warriors are flooding the midfield to give me primary there. The top objective's got Warriors and Monolith and Void Dragon flooding that objective there. So yeah, feeling pretty good about this. Kind of locked down a lot of the units. Really the only out you have, I think, is Void Dragon and Nightbringer bang both their charges and pop off, right?
Yeah, that's just not real. Yes, at the end of the day, we can't survive getting the second Raw Dog 9 in. We're never going to get over to the objective anymore. The game is over, and I have lost. So yeah, ends up being a 90-31 in favor of Nick here. This is nice. I don't know what the hell I said. 91-39 in Nick's favor here. This is a mission that breaks really hard once it breaks. Given that he scores 31 more primary than I do in turns 4 and 5. But that's the Hypercrit Mirror for you. Roll your 9s. Anyway, in the meantime, Lucas is reprising his game of Chaos Knights into Tau. This Tau list a little bit different. We got Enva, 2 Cadre Fireblades, a Cold Star with the Exemplar. So we got that classic Crisis unit that's going to go with him. Not a classic Crisis at all. We'll get there when we get there. Okay. We got Dark Ink Strider. We got 4 squads of 10 Breachers, only 2 Devilfish, but you can get away with that with some cycling pretty easily. Unit of 2 Broadsides, a 6-man Crisis unit. A little bit specced out here. We've got 3 with 1 Sib and 2 Fusions, and then 3 with 3 Fusions, all shield gens and 2 shield drones. Usually you see Fusion Blaster Crisis being paired with Farsight, but Donald here has gone with the this is Donald, right?
This is Donald.
Yeah, Donald was going with this mixed squad with the Cold Star. Very cool situation. He's also gone for all shield generators on all of the Crisis suits, which is that I feel like that's not normal. Don't they usually go for ballast support systems? One. Yeah, I know. I thought anyway.
Different people do different things. I usually see the 4-pinball.
Okay, cool. So he's got all the shield drones. 2 squads of 10 Pathfinders with their Infinity upgrades, in this case including Ion rifles. A singular Riptide with the Ion, only 2 units of 2 Tetras, which I'm sure Nick will yell at him about later, and a singular unit of Vespid Stingwings. Let's go, Donnie. Fucking Ingress. Tell us about it, Lucas. How'd the game go?
I mean, I love playing against Donald. He's not only a great player, but just a fun person to play against. And also someone who really, really loves his one army, which I think is cool. I like playing against those players, and I like those kind of people a lot. Unfortunately, like I mentioned in round 3, this is such a Giga Chaos Knights favorite matchup that, like, especially on supply drop with the objectives moving toward me, like, there was not really anything he could do to win. And even with me playing like an absolute monkey, I beat him pretty handily. The reasons why this is favored, I talked about a little bit about this in round 3. The morale checks, tower leadership 7 across the board, and their army mechanic does not work nearly as well when they start having models that are battle shocked. They're also very susceptible to the mortars, like the crisis suits, while everyone else got toughness bumps and stuff like that. There's, the edition change. These guys are still like 3-up armor T5. So 12 mortars rattling in over the course of the first turn or two, while the CK are not like full on rushing, like should kill a crisis suit or two. And then all of a sudden on turn 3, when they're wanting to, do all their guiding stuff and getting exploding hits and using firing fades so that they can survive the late game, they just can't because they're battle shocked. And then also 2 Gatling guns while they're battle shocked with the sustained hit strat just like tears them apart because it's like exploding 5s and wooden on 2s. It's just like really disgusting. And then other reasons, like they can't really get any primary, especially on this mission. Their damage is all like strength 8, so it's not great. It's just like there's so many things that make it rough. And Donald went tactical here. We talked a little bit about, once like turn 3 or 4 rolled around and the game was basically concluded, it was kind of fun to do a little bit of workshopping with him and be like, what are the ways we can get some more points here? So I suggested a couple of things, weaknesses among CK to keep an eye out for. And we went for some of those plays, and some of them worked and some of them didn't. But one of the things we talked about was going for fixed against CK. If you have trouble against armies like CK, I would always recommend, or Orcs or another one, where you can just take the kill secondary and homers, and it almost always works out very well. Talon, an army that absolutely needs those command points from tactical, and I think Donald will have scored, not enough to win, but more points taking fixed here. We can kind of see this is just kind of like the permanent board state where he was frantically trying to hold on to his bottom right objective, and I kept denying it. He squeaked it in one of the turns because I ran out of dogs once that brigand in the lower right died. So he got 1 round of primary in, but with the objectives disappearing in the upward left direction, it was just kind of impossible. So, yeah. Fun game. I enjoyed playing against Donald, but not exactly satisfying because it was not very mentally stimulating for either one of us, for me to just kind of run at him and him do kind of not really have any ability to interact with that.
Yeah. You and I played this at the beach. I think it was take and hold, but search and destroy going second into CK. I mean, even did you go first or second? I forget.
I went second. I went second.
Yeah. Even then, it's just the amount of pressure that they can exert on you is insane. And if you don't have rail guns, I know he had the squad of broadsides, but they're so slow, right? They can really only block off one firing lane.
They're slow. They don't really kill a dog until turn 3 anyway, because it's 4 shots hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, saving on 5s that really should not kill a war dog.
Yeah.
It's just bad.
It's really hard to be Tau and try to counter CK unless you heavily invest in hammerheads, and even then you're just okay, these give me a chance, let's pray.
Yeah, as we saw, the hammerhead guy didn't even beat me, so it's dumb.
A little bit cursed, but hey, maybe the new codex will solve that.
We'll see. All right, sweet. Brings us into round 6, the final round. Very exciting. We're playing Take and Hold, Hidden Supplies, Hammer, and Anvil. 6 objectives on Hammer. Love Hidden Supplies on Hammer and Dawn, where the objectives right down the middle. Not very exciting. Striated objectives. Very exciting. Let's see how it goes. First up, I am playing into other Chaos Knights. Lucas, you want to run down this list for me real quick?
Yeah, this is a pretty fun list. It's Lancer, 5 Brigands, 4 Carnivores with missile hats, 1 Beast of Nurgle, and 2 Nurglings. This is played by Jake. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, something Polish. I played him at Slaanesh. He's a very adept Chaos Knights player, very good with the army, and cool to see him trying out the Lancer. Does Lancer have an enhancement?
I don't think it did.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because he definitely didn't have sticky objectives, and he definitely didn't make me take morale checks. I don't know if there's another one.
Respect. I like that.
Yeah.
Cheap. But yeah, the Lancer's cool.
Yeah, this game was certainly one of the games of Warhammer of all time. I went first and was like, all right, cool. I know how to play against Chaos Knights, playing against Lucas' Chaos Knights all the time. The Lancer is a problem, and absolutely nothing else is. Let me bait this guy into overcommitting and just raw dog him. Just shoot constantly, stand places. It's going to be great. He goes, I go first, and my monolith just sort of walks over and cuts a really awkward angle to see, I don't know, to bring it to a carnivore, but a dog, and just obliterates it. And I'm like, that's great. And he's like, damn, I didn't think you'd cut that angle. And I'm like, yeah, man, towering. It's a bummer. And I was like, yeah, this is great. It's round 6. I've already lost a game. So, like, in particular, that game to Nick was just like very psychically painful. So I'm just running around on blowing stuff up. He then on bottom one is like, I'm going to hard commit to your Nightbringer, who I have like positioned, like Nick talks about a lot here, where he can cover an objective but isn't himself on it, so he's not getting mega charged. He says, fuck it, we ball. Sends 2 Brigands and 2 Carnivores at him. The Carnivores line up like a 7 and 8 or 9 inch charge and just hit both of them. After the Brigands did like no damage, and the Carnivores also do like no damage, and then one of them dies to the Nightbringer, and I'm like, cool, dude. 2 Knights down, turn 1, seems good. He is zoning his backfield, so I'm not able to. I obviously break down homers. I'm not able to transcend it into his backfield, which is like, great, good job, you did the thing correctly. So I just run a Locust up to the center and homer there. And then that's when things got ugly, because on top of 2, I killed 4 dogs, I think. I'm going to spoil it by clicking over here. I killed 3 dogs. So I killed 2 dogs turn 1, 3 dogs turn 2. So of his 7, I've killed 5 of them. And I'm just like owning the whole table. In the meantime, his Lancer is like, fuck this. I don't want anything to do with any of y'all. I'm just going to T-pose on 2 objectives and score points. I'm like, that's fine, dude. I don't care about your Lancer either. I'm just going to stand over here and shoot things, and just killed absolutely everything I could, which was going great. We're having fun. We're moving really quick. And then suddenly I realized, wait, it's turn 4? I thought it was like turn 3. Oh, shit. I have been not prioritizing primary at all. I've been prioritizing denying your ability to get me with the Lancer while standing in a couple places. His Beast of Nurgle nails a 9-inch charge to take my home field. And suddenly I'm on a 5. Oh no. And I shoot and kill instead of charging and with the monolith to take his home field. So suddenly it's like, oh wait, I'm going to get only 30 primary this game with my 39 secondary. And this man has been heart of the cardsing the entire game. He has scored 2 secondaries as Chaos Knights every single turn while getting absolutely tabled. And on turn 5, with 2 models left, a Lancer and a Beast of Nurgle, the Beast of Nurgle being on my home field, he pulls capture enemy outpost behind enemy lines and swings 11 secondary, which caps him out. And I lose the game, which was very funny. At one point in the middle of the game, Jake said to me, I don't think I have ever lost a game this hard in my entire life. And yeah, I got really cocky. I was absolutely slaughtering this dude, just killing shit left and right. The downside of taking Bring It Down as a fixed secondary is that it will give you an inflated sense of where the game is at on medium turns, because you look down, you're like, I'm up 20 points. Okay, we're chilling. This is absolutely cruising. But I'm up 20 points because I have maxed Bring It Down, right? On turn 3, I'm at 18. My primary is only at 15. Right, I'm down primary on turn 3. He's getting a 15, and I'm out of it. I've lost a lot of blood. I am feeling like a mess. I am exhausted. I am out of the running, and I managed to let this one slip. So massive props to Jake for playing to his outs and making all the secondaries happen. He does end up pulling off an assassinate. No, he pulls off a bring it down by killing my Transcendent from full with 3 dogs. It's like 2 brigands and a carnivore. And I'm like, oh, that's the thing that happens, I guess. But yeah, no, props to him for making it work here. But anyway, Lucas, tell us about your round 6, dude.
Yeah, well, with work, this is the interesting thing with my new schedule. This is such an endearing picture of me. God, I'm a disgusting fuck. But yeah, with my new schedule, I'm getting up at like 5 in the morning to get to work. And with the 4.5-hour drive home, finishing round 6 at like 9, awards end at 10, get home at 2 in the morning, get 3 hours of sleep, then go to a full day. That sounds bad. So I bow out, unfortunately. I never like leaving events. I don't think dropping is very cool, especially when like you kind of have a responsibility not only to the other people of the event, but also the tournament organizers that you've committed to like going to the event. So I didn't feel great about this, but I almost never drop, and this was a situation where I'm like, yeah, it feels somewhat reasonable to not hate myself tomorrow.
Fair enough. This photo is from our trip to WTC last year. I think this is on a train in.
This is in Frankfurt.
This is in Frankfurt.
This was us coming back from our first foray into Frankfurt, and you guys both passed out 5 minutes in. And like mid-conversation, look over, and Tyler's like, just slumped forward.
Oh man, hurts my back just looking at it. But yeah, very nice. So fair enough. Lucas ends out 4-1. He ends up ahead of me in placings, which pisses me off to no end. That's how BCP works, because we have the same number of wins, and he has better OG win percentage than I do. But yeah, so it goes. Sweet. And that brings us to the finals. Nicholas Olsen Johnson versus Imperial Knights. Lucas, tell us about your loyalist brethren and their great listing.
Do I have to?
You do.
Fuck off. This is actually
you're the only knight. You're the only Imperial Knights player here. So.
Oh god, that is disgusting.
You've taken Imperial Knights to more GTs than any of us.
This is a cool picture, by the way. Doesn't make them actually look cool, which I didn't think was possible. So yeah, he's got Canis Rex, he's got a Lancer, and he's got an Errant. So Chad melee enjoyer, 4 Warglaves and a Calidus Assassin. Awesome, dude. Tell us about this game.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, did you guys know that Knights got their like reroll buff, like reroll ability buffed?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that because like I haven't seen Imperial Knights since the last like War Masters. And the guy rolls up and I'm like, yeah, you get to reroll once. He's like, actually, we're Eldar now, and I'm like, okay, cool, sounds cool. So yeah, this mission it's a little bit different than CK. Like CK, they have a primary advantage. Like CK, they can just walk an armiger up to an objective and steal it. Obviously, they have way less armigers, and the armigers can't walk through walls. So it's a little bit better there. They do have the ability to hand out advance and charge to one armiger with the Lancer bondsman ability, and advance and shoot with the Errants, which also I think lets them reroll advances. So like one of them gets to go pretty fast, pretty reliably. This game, I took Bring It Down Homers because it's just the best into Knights. And also, he doesn't really have a lot to screen his backfield, so I'm like, Homers is going to be pretty darn easy. Another thing about Knights, I guess IK, it's a little bit different to CK, especially with the Lancer, which I guess CK could have. But having the Lancer in the matchup changes it a little bit with your Catan. The Catan can never like bait people in because they'll just die. The Melta that they have, like the Errant's Melta, is like +6 or something crazy. Or maybe it's +4. I don't know. He shoots a shitload of Melta shots at you. And then also their ability to tank shock once with like, a strength 20 weapon. So you're probably taking 6 mortals. And then the Lancer can tank shock again for free with another huge strength weapon. So you're probably taking another 6 mortals. Just aces Catan. Like Melta, mortal, punching. Your Catan's dead. So a lot of this game is setting up Nightbringer countercharges and Void Dragon countercharges while trying to bait him in with warriors and trying never to let him punch the monolith because he'll probably just pick that thing up and break it over his knee. Another thing about this game too is because of how the terrain is, right? We're on layout 1. It's really trying to like isolate expose or isolate go after isolated war dogs, or armigers, what they're called, okay, and also trying to use like the terrain to my advantage by like putting guys in the way, so his big knights have to like sacrifice a lot of movement going around these buildings. I know they're allowed to go over terrain less than 4 inches in height, but like these big buildings in the middle are not. Like he gets to go over the little debris pieces, and he gets to move over my pieces, my models. That's another thing that big knights have, super heavy walker. But like if you just put a model at the end of their movement, you're like, cool, you can walk over me, but you can't end your movement in me, so you're stuck there. Same thing too, like the channel I'm going to give you to move through is going to end you on top of the rebel piece on the little like, tiny terrain. You can't end your move there legally. So using terrain a lot to your advantage, slowing the game down, was kind of my game plan here. Like I initially thought it was going to be really hard to get primary on this, just because of like he can come over. Like I can probably get like 5 and 10s, but like the midfield's going to be scary because he can just shoot me off, right? But after going first, I got my home field for 5. I didn't put anything in the midfield because I was just worried he was going to walk up and shoot and charge it. So I got like a 5. He puts a shitload of OC on the midfield objectives, and I look at my warriors and I'm like, okay, I can move block and deny here. So drop the chronomancers in, move block like all of his big knights and like 2 of his armigers, put him on a 5. Yeah, because I can't steal his home field. He's got like, OC 10 knight back there sitting in the middle. So I'm like, I'll put you on a 5. That seems good. I'll deny 10 primary. Another thing in this game that I'm using a lot is because it's the layout 1 on Hammer and Anvil, the backfield's completely exposed. You can't hold it from behind the wall. So I just put Xeris back there and then make sure to keep something behind a wall within 3 of him, so he's got lone off the whole time. So that works out pretty well. Another thing too is because his oath is to kill my warlord, he has to cross through my entire army to kill Xeris to turn his oath on. So that's just not happening. Yeah, at this point, kind of how the game goes is he decides with Canis, because I teleport the Transcendent into his backfield, kind of like with Lucas. I'm like, you can give me a 20, or you can give me 4 on homers the rest of the game, but also, spoiler alert, this Catan's threatening your backfield. Or you can turn Canis around and try to kill a Transcendent with his shooting and a Warglaive shooting in melee. Not fantastic, but it does pull Canis out of the fight, which is great. I'm able to isolate the Lancer and get it down through some shooting and punching across like 2 turns. There's some swingy stuff there with like his invulns in melee. My Nightbringer doesn't quite kill him. He doesn't quite kill me back on the clapback. He doesn't kill my Nightbringer in shooting the next turn, and then I kill his Lancer in melee, who fights on death and leaves the Nightbringer on 2, which is great. The picture that you can see here is me 3-inching the Plasmancer squad and redeploying the Monolith to go after this Errant that was on that objective. Kill it in shooting, so the Nightbringer and the Void Dragon are just gone. At this point, he's like, you've probably won the game. I have Bring It Down that I've kept since turn 2, and goddamn, I'm going to get it. The Transcendent did not die to, Warglaive and Canis going after it on turn 2, and you can kind of see him through here. He eventually leaves because I'm able to sneak a Locust into his backfield for homers, so I just bring the Transcendent back for primary, and he just starts healing up his wounds. So this guy brings Canis down, and he's all like, I'm going to kill your 2-wound Nightbringer in shooting. And I'm like, you probably will. And he goes, boom, Nightbringer's dead. All right, that's 4 points on Bring It Down. And then he goes, I'm going to charge the Void Dragon. And I'm like, you probably need a... And he looks up at me as he rolls boxcars, and he's like, 12? And I'm like, yeah, you're 11.9 away. I guess you charge the Void Dragon. And he tank shocks it, does 6 mortals. I make no feel no pains. And then he fucking Hand of Freedoms the Void Dragon and goes, hi-ya, chops him in half and gets 7 points on Bring It Down. And I'm all like, that was super cool. Like, all right, sounds good. And at this point in the game, I've got Canis and this like dinky Armiger. I leave the Armiger on 1 and Canis on like 2. And then he draws Capture Defend. And he manages to, sneak his little 1-wound Armiger up top, which I don't kill or I don't think I'm able to see it to overwatch it because my guys are in the middle at this point. Sneaks it up to his home field, gets Defend, sends Canis over, lands a charge into my Locust that's on the backfield, gets Capture, and I'm like, all right, sounds good. You get a bunch of points at the end, but through like primary denial early and like the secondary advantage that I had, I was just able to win the game, 93-71. So kind of a. I mean, it feels like, yeah, woohoo, yeah, we did it.
We did it.
Kind of feels like a big trend of the weekend, and like the goal of the list. A lot of these times is just slowing your opponent down early, getting your lead, making it really impossible for them to score secondaries, getting your primary advantage, and then eventually they might crack through. But at that point, it's like, I'm 30 points ahead. Your cap is scoring 15 in this last turn or two. The math doesn't add up, So, yeah.
Nice.
I know people were memeing on Ike, and like freaking props to Adrian for going 5-1 at this tournament with Ike. He like, we paired in the top table, and he's all like, I don't really quite know why I'm here. He's like, my goal was to score 50 points or at least 50 points every game, and I've just been beating people. And we were playing, and like he like instantly was like, oh yeah, bring it down, Homer, Hypercrypt, like you're gonna beat me. And I'm like, dude, you're undefeated. I'm undefeated. We're playing top table. I'm gonna respect you. Like, I'm foot on the gas. Let's go. And yeah, he knew his shit. Like, he like played his army well. And I know that people like are like, IK are terrible. And Krons are the best. But like every once in a while, there's sometimes, just like an army's got a good matchup. And IK have a pretty good Krons matchup because they're actually really good at killing Catan through Melta and like double tank shocks. This is something that Brian Jones on Team USA was all like, yeah, dude, I destroyed Krons. We're all like, they must be bad. No, he's really good at knights, and like he's like it's an army that's good for them. So I was certainly giving my utmost caution in this game because I was like one misposition with the Catan, and this guy bowls into my lines. So yeah, super great way to end the weekend. Super great game. Adrian's a fantastic opponent, and I look forward to playing him again.
Sweet. And that wraps it. So, Nicholas Olsen-Johnson is the best general of Cascade Clash. We got Liam Bath down here in the front who pulls best overall with his Necrons as well. Tarzan, depicted sitting next to Nick, is our best painted. Massive props to him on that. And that's Jake sitting next to you. Did he? What is he? I think he's just best Chaos Knights?
Best CK, yeah.
Best CK.
A lot of these are like best in faction. Like Tarzan got like best orcs. I also got best.
Well, he got best painted, yeah.
Yeah. Tarzan got both. Best orcs and best painted.
Yeah. So props to all the boys who took home some amount of hardware, and props to the boys at Cascade for throwing a fantastic event. Closing thoughts. How do you feel about the event, Nick? You won another major. Great job.
Yeah. I mean, like kind of like what we covered in the event review. Like, good stuff. Room for improvement. Our feedback is being heard. These events are only going to keep getting better. So,
hell yeah. Man.
I had a fantastic time. One thing I will say that was nice, I know they kind of did it on purpose, was the they gave like a lot more space for the top table games. Like they had the tables isolated, so you could move around the tables. It was a little quieter because it was more towards the front where the sound was better. So I appreciate that because it's like those are definitely like everyone's out there trying really hard in all their games, right? But like when you are competing against like another one of like the best players at the tournament and you guys are both thinking really hard, it's nice to have a little bit more breathing room. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. That was real nice. I know they had a lot of access to judging up there as well, which was really nice. Didn't end up coming up a whole bunch for me, but it was nice to know that it was there if I needed it. Fantastic. We do have to run through listener questions. We are contractually obligated to do so. So let's try to make that happen as quickly as possible. If you want to submit your own listener questions, join us on Patreon. Join the Discord. If you're on the Discord and you don't see the question threads, look for them. They're under the Take All Questions channel under the show, and we'll put up a thread every week. All right. Logan asks, who will be the first to take all Kroot to a GT+? Seems like Nick is enjoying Tau, but I feel like you don't like Kroot as much as I do. So I don't know. We'll see.
I think they're cool, but getting 18 Rampagers sounds hard, and the suit detachment looks awesome. So I'm probably going to play on that first.
Valid. Which army would you recommend to someone trying to get into competitive? Or if you don't have a specific army in mind, which criteria would you encourage someone to use in order to make that choice? I think Chaos Knights. What do you think about that, Lucas?
Yeah, I would say my three were going to be like Chaos Knights, Votan, or Space Marines, just because they like play fundamentals really well. They have a couple of tricks. You're just going to learn to be good at like core Warhammer things, playing those armies.
Yeah, I would.
They also play in every phase.
Totally. I would not recommend Space Marines just from a hobby perspective because, like, that shit's awful. You'll have to, every time the meta changes, you got to buy $1,000 in new stuff. Whereas Chaos Knights, like, get dogs, magnetize your dogs, or Votan. It's a pretty limited range.
If you're into Xenos, Eldar are always good, and there's a ton of.
Yeah, I would not recommend someone trying to get into comp right now picking up Eldar. They are a very easy army to do very poorly with.
Yeah, fair enough.
Whereas I feel like Chaos Knights and Votan will teach you some fundamentals a little bit better. But yeah, if you want to be good long term, play Eldar 100%. All right, next question. Yep. Derek asks, what was each of your favorite opponent interactions at the event? Favorite opponent interaction.
I've got a
Either you guys have one? Go for it.
Yeah, I took tactical in 3 of my games, basically the non-Tau games. In game 1, I drew behind enemy lines, capture enemy outpost on turn 1. In game 2, I drew behind enemy lines and capture enemy outpost on turn 1. And then I turned to Nick at the start of our game and went, all right, so far this green deck has drawn me behind enemy lines and capture enemy outpost on turn 1. And then he's like, all right, bet, let's see. The first card I flip over is behind enemy lines. And I'm like, and then I flipped tempting targets. It was all good. But that was a terrifying moment. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, very cool.
I think for me, I definitely just want to shout out like Dalton and Adrian, my round 1 and round 6 opponents. Like the entire time, super positive game. Loved how just enthusiastic they were about playing the game. Dalton's like, God damn, I'm gonna kill this Catan, and you could definitely tell like the writing was on the wall, but he was like super positive the whole time. And Adrian and I had a very good like at the beginning of the game, he's like, hey, I'm a very Paleo 10 player. And I'm like, oh, thank God, dude, me too. And we were like, okay, cool. Massive sigh of relief. Let's just like walk through this game. There was a lot of like, oh shoot, I meant to do that. And I'm like, you want to go back and do this? And he was like, thank you so much. And he even had like one moment where he was all like, God damn, like you rolled so many 4-ups. And after the game, he like apologized to me. He's like, sorry, that was a poor example of sportsmanship. And I'm like, dude, you didn't like express any like anger or animosity towards me. You were just like venting about me rolling, you couldn't do any damage to this Catan this phase. Totally fine. But he was like wanted to be sure like that was not directed at you. And I'm like, totally fine. So yeah, went above and beyond to like make sure, I had a good experience, and that was super awesome.
Very nice, very nice. I'll give that shout out to my first round opponent, Cole, for his absolute fuck it, we ball attitude. The dude was like, this is going to go terribly. I do not care. I'm sending everybody in immediately. And I got mad respect for a dude who knows how to get in and out and on his way at a pretty reasonable clip. Derek also asked, best example of sportsmanship you saw? Can be the same thing. If you got something different, you're also welcome to bring that up.
I want to give a shout out to you, dude. Fucking brain bleeding out of your nose like 3 games in a row. And from what I heard, I mean, our game, you were like super cheery, fantastic opponent. And in the game with Bagwell came over, high energy with like a paper towel shoved up your nose, and the Bursa game also seemed like Sean, Green Knights. So like being in that much, not pain, but like super annoying, and just still managing to remain your cheery and like communicative self was super great. Also in our game too, completely brain farted, and you were like, I set up all these shots into your warriors, and I was like, cool. So I've got this huge brick I want to activate, but I'll like get a little greedy, I'll throw like a few shots in first, shoot, and you were like, teleport to Monolith, and I'm like, I lose. And you were like, shoot warriors first instead. And I'm like, may I? And you were like, yeah, dude, go ahead. Don't be a fucking idiot. And I was like, thank you very much for not insta making me lose the game. So huge example of sportsmanship there.
For sure, man. I appreciate it. I gotta give a big shout out to Bagwell. I mentioned that his monolith diced my monolith, but I neglected to mention on the front end that I diced the shit out of this guy. He set up a really clever play where he tried to deathmark sniper out my Plasmancer, which would have been a huge issue. Big tip into Necrons, by the way. If you have snipers, man, are they vulnerable to them. Particularly because deathmarks just shoot on arrival. And I just rolled too many 5s. Damn it. Bummer, dude. Your clever plays don't work. And he took that in stride like a champ. There was a number of silliness going on there, and he really pulled it off well. Sick. All right. And lastly, from Sam. Firstly, is McWhirp a real person, or was it just some online persona that took a sister's list to 10? I did meet McWhirp. Thumbs up for McWhirp.
Real person.
He's real.
Confirmed.
He is
Not a
Supposedly.
seagull.
He might have been 11 Seagulls in a Canucks jersey. I don't know if that's Canucks. In a hockey jersey of some kind. I cannot confirm or deny that. And then last question for Tyler. Now that you've jumped to Crons, what is the process now? Keep playing Silvertide or jump back? I'm taking Necrons to Rosehammer next weekend because I've spent a lot of time on this army and I want to take it to more events. Definitely still playing Tyranids as well. Like that's still happening. I'm not really sure what's going on further term than that. We'll see what's happening. But I'm very intrigued by some. Now that we've seen what this Necron list can do, I feel like I have the knowledge to try some other wackier things. So look forward to maybe hearing about some of that stuff later on as I try to experiment with some other Necron builds. Sweet. That is all the listener questions. Oh my gosh. We made it under 3 hours somehow. 2 hours and 50 minutes at this point. Anything else you guys want to say before we sign off for the week?
Thanks for listening to us talk for 2 hours and 50 minutes.
Fantastic. If you're still here, you should look in the description and use some of those codes and some of our sponsors because they're cool. You'd probably like to keep the conversation going. Check us out on Patreon. If you want to listen to the plugs, they were in the middle. They're great. They have great people. But we're going to be back in 2 weeks. Sorry?
If you have any questions about any of these games, we think there's a ton of cool stuff happening in them. We try to keep it, as short as possible. We'll go into a bit in depth. If you got any questions, you can hit us up in the Discord. Always happy to talk about games.
Yep. We'll also be in the comments on YouTube if you go looking for us there most of the time. Like, comment, subscribe. We thank you for your support. The monetary stuff is great, but even if you don't have money, the interactions are almost more valuable sometimes. So we really appreciate that. But we'll be back, not next week because we'll be at Rosehammer, back in 2 weeks to talk about Rosehammer. See if one of us can bag. If we can do back-to-back TAC GT wins, I think that'd be pretty sick. So we'll see if we can make that happen. Anyway, with that all being said and done, thank you so much for joining us.
His audio.
Rosehammer, Warhammer 40K. Let's play it. Catch you guys next time.